Well, boys, this is my first July 4th. I heard it's pretty fucking lit, so let's get to grilling.
USA! 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 I'm fucking hammered, chat. Think I'm on beer 152.
I love America, baby! Happy fucking 4th! Well, boys, this is my first July 4th. I heard it's pretty fucking lit, so let's get to grilling.
USA! 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 I'm fucking hammered, chat. Think I'm on beer 152.
I love America, baby! Happy fucking 4th! Well, boys, this is my first July.
Hello. Sorry about that. I let it get away from me a little bit. Oh, man. How's everybody going? How's everybody doing tonight? Happy 4th of July, everyone. I hope everyone really enjoyed the show. Not enjoyed the show. Holy crap. Let's start over. Reset. Happy 4th of July, everyone. It's Jim from Jim Tells You, and I'm here with some news and some topics to talk about tonight on 4th of July, July 4th, 2025. I hope everybody is safe and secure and not bothered by any loud noises, other crap that's going on out there. So I was a little frazzled tonight. I didn't have enough time really to get things going when I was out checking out some fireworks and stuff, and I was trying to get the tabs loaded up to get the show going. And what can I say? But I do have some stuff ready to go, so let's jump right in tonight with the first story of the evening. Why is it being so difficult for me to do here? Being so difficult. How's everybody doing? Oh, I didn't put any goal tonight for the show. I guess I should have, but I didn't have time to get it going. Maybe I'll do it right now while we're here waiting to get here. Let me go. So I'm going to put a goal on the show. Go longer than 2 hours. Let's say 10. Let's go 10 $5 super chats in the next hour. Let's say So we'll say go an extra hour or more. We'll just make it $10, $5 or more super chats, and we'll go. We'll just go 2 hours. Why not? So we'll keep going. So we'll do that. Boom. All right, got that done. Now I can get back to what I was talking about, the story. So we have. There we go. So nearly 820,000 new Americans pledged allegiance to the United States this year. They came here legally. And what does America mean to them? One word: freedom. Not one of them agrees with Democrats that America is the most racist, oppressive place in the world. Here they all are. These are these people. They're here. They come here looking for freedom and a better life. And they devote themselves to making themselves better and America a better place. So today on the 4th of July, let's salute all these people who did it the right way and who do make America better by being here and contributing to this melting pot, which is the United States of America. We salute you. These people came from 44 countries. They ranged from 18 to 71. Some fled civil war. Some pursued opportunity. Many found love. Every one of them stood up, raised their right hand, and pledged to defend the Constitution of the United States. Yes, I just want to wish everybody a happy Jim Dependence Day. Now, I know that might sound like you're dependent on Jim or that Jim is dependent on you, but it's not like that. It's more of a symbiotic relationship. One Congolese man escaped daily gunfire. A young man from Burma fled civil war. A Vietnamese refugee simply wanted the right to speak freely. They didn't come here for handouts. They came here for freedom and responsibility. I can show nearly 2/3 of the naturalized citizens come from the remaining 175 nations. To become a citizen, you must be here legally for 5 years, learn English, pass a civics test, take an oath of allegiance, renounce foreign loyalties, and swear to serve in the military if required. Now, what I don't know is, like it says, to become a citizen, you have to do all these things. Renounce foreign loyalties. How could any of these people be dual citizens then? That's a question that I need to ask somebody. I'm going to have next time I'm on with Joe or some other lawyer. I'm going to ask them, how is it that we have these people like that guy running for mayor of New York, who's now he's a naturalized U.S. citizen, and he just got naturalized in 2018, but it says he's a dual citizen of Uganda. How can you be a dual citizen if you have to renounce foreign loyalties? So it's a question I just pondering when I saw this. So I just was, I'm not trying to derail anything, but this isn't open borders. This is earned. These people that come this way do this. Now I will say that a recent poll, which we're going to get into later, more like 55%, depending on what poll you look at, of Americans want to reduce all immigration, even legal immigration. So a man from Rwanda said it best. The best thing about living in the U.S. is a chance at a good education, a chance to build something. This is what this is what legal immigration is and ought to be. A nation of opportunities, not entitlements. One woman left Nigeria to join her husband. She missed her family, but she's studying to serve others. She wants to care for the elderly. Another came from Bangladesh, found a job, and fell in love with biscuits and gravy. Biscuits and gravy are pretty good. That's the American story. Biscuits and gravy. I like biscuits and gravy, but I don't know about falling in love. Many say they work 2 or 3 jobs gladly. Why? In our country, we can work hard and never get ahead, but not here. That's what makes America special. That's what they say. Work is rewarded, dreams are possible, and liberty is protected. Mm-hmm. Their stories remind us freedom is precious, citizenship is earned, and the American dream still matters. It's worth defending against woke elitists who sneer at patriotism or want to erase the border. The American dream is not about having stuff, it's about having opportunity. One federal judge put it perfectly while swearing in a group of new citizens. Don't take it for granted. People give up a lot to come to this country. We should ask ourselves, why is that? Because it's still the greatest country on earth. That's right. Look at that eagle. You know you got to be the greatest country on earth. Look at the eagle. That eagle going to tear some shit up, man. Before I jump to the next thing, I want to bring this up. Say thank you very much. J.A. Swalback for $20 here says, Jim, it's simple. I can have a wife and a mistress. The wife can take my stuff. The mistress I can kick aside. Bats dual citizenship. Which one is my wife? Which one is my wife is the real question. Or is it complex dual system? I don't know what the dex means. He doesn't know why it says dex either. Yeah. How you doing, Steve Hillard? Says hello to the chat. Hello, everyone. Hello, Steve. Hello to everyone. So this is the question. So which is your wife is the real question. Huh? I think your wife would be the one that you couldn't do without, maybe. The one that you need to, that gets you by. And the Christian worldview of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Contrary to its modern detractors, the Declaration of Independence is one of the most Christian documents in human history. I don't know. I don't see any blue-haired fat women in this photo, so it can't be the most Christian document in history, right? Just saying. In its most famous passage, America's founding document asserts that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those words are stirring. They have inspired millions. But even more fundamentally, they are Christian, influenced by the Enlightenment. Yes, harmonious with classical as opposed to modern liberalism. Mostly, but Christian indeed. The Declaration, I don't know if you guys can hear those fireworks outside. They're pretty loud. But mostly Christian indeed. The Declaration's essential claim could not exist but for Christianity. And that's worth exploring. Because almost no one does it today. And because once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's the freest, most successful civilization in human history. Would not and could not exist apart from its Christian intellectual foundation. Worldview, it turns out, matters. First, the Declaration expresses these rights as self-evident. Nearly all the founders were believers. Many of them were pastors. They saw God's laws written on all men's hearts, and proof of his words and his truthfulness written upon the whole of creation. Moreover, because they saw these rights as granted by God, they believed them to be prior to government, and that government's purpose was to secure them. Indeed, if it ceased to do so, the government became illegitimate. In their defining statement, they asserted that these truths as foundational. Second, the Declaration expressed these as rights. This bothers some Christians today who assert that we have no rights, only duties or responsibilities. But this assertion is pious sounding rather than true. Paul certainly speaks of his own rights, both civilly and ecclesiastically, and on matters far less important than, say, life. Founders like Paul asserted negative rights, which is to say, those rights which prevent others from infringing on yours, and you from infringing on theirs. They believe in the dignity of man because nearly all of them believed him created in God's image. and they defined man's rights as the flip side of God's commandments. E.g., I have a right not to be murdered, I have a right not to be robbed, etc. By contrast, the founders expressly rejected the modern left's conception of so-called positive rights, e.g. the right to a job, or to internet access, or to an abortion. Such rights necessarily require that some other person give up their own rights. And in an undefined way, one can only be bounded by covetousness and arbitrated by force. The Declaration's concept of rights is a deliberate expression of God's commandments. The left's rights are their institutionalized systemic violation. Third is the same sentence. The Declaration states as self-evident that all men are created equal. Had the founders been French, this would have been an expression of Enlightenment humanism. But they were not French. They were American, Protestant Christians, and heirs of the glorious Revolution. They intended this phrase as a restatement of the doctrine that there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free. And indeed, most of them were opposed to the continuation of slavery, though ending it was not within their power, and no country on earth had yet done such a thing. The Declaration deliberately enshrined into law the gospel's view of the second Adam's redeemed race. Fourth, the Declaration asserted certain rights not merely as self-evident, but as unalienable. This is a choice of words that's little understood today, but it matters a great deal. And an alienable right is one which no one may take from another. But an unalienable right is one so integral to a person that he may not give it up himself. The definition is a further assertion of our creation in the image of God, and indeed of our position as the temples of the Holy Spirit. We may not, for instance, commit suicide because life is part and parcel of our being. It may neither be taken nor abandoned apart from due process of law, which in the Anglo-American jurisprudential tradition is itself based not only on biblical principle, but on hermeneutical approach exemplified by Paul in 1 Tim 5:18. Fifth, and likely most pertinent to some pastors' great discomfort, the specific rights asserted by the Declaration, which the text makes clear to be a partial list, are themselves entirely biblical and intended to be so. This is a reasonably obvious point with regard to life, but modern heirs sometimes balk at the other two, and they therefore bear some examination. Liberty is an inherently Christian concept. Much ink might be spilled addressing the biblical passages concerning this, many of which tend to be overlooked by well-meaning Christians discussing the topic. But it is likely more helpful to think of this topic in the way the founders would have, in the negative. The founders fully grasped and embraced the doctrine of the fall and of man's depravity. They understood that the essence of man's sin was pride, and its expression was covetous, and it flows therefrom. They knew better than all who came before them that sin could not be restrained by force, because those employing that force were themselves sinners, and would use their position to impose and expand their own sin at everyone else's expense. As a result, they later designed the American Constitution, perhaps the high point of human thought thus far on the matters of governance, which deliberately set as many different interests against one another as possible, so that they would have to cooperate and persuade rather than dictate and compel to govern. Madison did not idly state that if men were angels, no government would be necessary. Indeed, he and his peers built an entire American system on the idea of fallenness. Like Adam Ferguson and Adam Smith, they correctly believed that if no man had sufficient power to impose his will on the rest, all men, or nearly all, would thus be constrained, as if by an invisible hand, to work constructively rather than destructively. Thus, liberty is necessitated rather than precluded by the fall. Without it, violence and sin are increased by those sinners who have the power over all others, whereas with it, all must be respected. The limitations of violence, theft, and other breaches within the Scripture requires when it commands that we love our neighbors as ourselves. Nor is this liberty libertine or anarchic. It is that ordered liberty which was the sine qua non of the founders' thoughts, involving just enough government to restrain man's wickedness, but not so much to propagate yet more. Likewise, the pursuit of happiness, this phrase is often equated, even by well-meaning conservatives, to Locke's property, but the Continental Congress adopted Jefferson's change with reason. Locke spoke of this also, not in the two treatises, Life, Liberty, and Property, but in his Concerning Human Understanding, in which he wrote of pursuing happiness as the foundation of liberty. His conception of happiness derived clearly from the Greek concept of eudaimonia, encompassing not merely wealth, honor, or pleasure, but virtue and excellence, courage, moderation, justice, and social happiness. Aristotle summarized in Nicomacheia, Ethics, that he said that the happiness of man does not well, for we will have practically defined happiness as a sort of good life and good action. This is the intellectual foundation of Jefferson's phrasing. While the other founders were also mindful of Locke and Aristotle, they tended to look within a more distinctly Christian framework. And it is this audience for whom Jefferson was primarily writing. They understood that there's so many callings in the body of Christ. Some are heads, some are hearts, some are hands, some are feet. This is essential, and that each be free to pursue that which God has uniquely called him. That's pretty interesting. I don't know. That went, and I want to thank Darth Angel Shadows said, thank God Franklin did get his choice for the national bird. Or it would be a turkey. Happy Independence Day. Can't wait to see all the 250th festivities over the next 365 days. Oh, me too, man. I really can't wait. I really can't wait. Yeah. I want to apologize to everybody. That was a little bit dry, a little bit more religious than I like to really get into. I read some of it, and I didn't know it was going to be that strict scriptural. But, on the flip side, I want to show you the opposite of the people that came here illegally, the people that want to make a better life, the people that want to contribute to the melting pot of America, and that would be these people. Send home this third world trash. Unlawful assembly has been declared by DHS at the federal building in Los Angeles after a brief clash with an anti-ICE protesters, bottle thrown at agents and Marines.
Scary bitch! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Hey, how do you hold it up? How do you fuck it up?
Can't believe this is happening on the 4th of July, on Independence Day, that people are actually resorting to this kind of behavior and doing this. This is upsetting. It's disgusting. I can't believe people are like this. I really can't. I can't. Crew Revere comes in with $2 to say happy 4th, Jim. Happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day to you, Crew Revere. J.H. Swalback is clarifying all of what you just said means that government stays out of your way so you can pursue the things that make you happy and help your community. Yeah, definitely. That's the way it should be, right? I mean, that's what's supposed to happen. That's the way we want it, don't we? We want to be able to help people. Well, okay. So, insurrection. Insurgents under the Mexican flag laid siege to a federal building in LA, blocking federal vehicles and obstructing justice. This is what's happening on the 4th of July, on Independence Day in America, a day to celebrate America. This is what these people decided to do. That should upset everyone. It really should.
Piece of shit! Fucking traitors! Piece of shit! You're a piece of shit! Fucking people! How can you fucking live with that? How can you fucking
It's sad, isn't it? Isn't it that this is what America, this is what people think you should do on the 4th of July and Independence Day instead of celebrating? You know, the insurrection in LA is growing in numbers. Look at them. This is what they're doing on the 4th of July. This is insanity. You know, LA's declared unlawful assembly at the federal building. They're throwing bottles and stuff at the employees and the Marines. You know, this is nuts, man. This is ridiculous. It really is. It's so sad. So sad. Time for mass arrests on the insurrectionists in LA. I agree. I concur. It's just silly stuff happening here. Says the siege on the federal facilities in LA by insurgents waving foreign flags isn't protest, it's insurrection. Under H.R. 1057, Safe Passage on the Interstates Act, blocking highways and obstructing federal operations carries a penalty of up to 20 years. Wow. Oh, hey, Julio Scissors. Happy 4th of July, man. Nice for being, thanks for being here, buddy. ICE raids targeting criminal aliens with warrants, yet California's leadership prioritizes performative outrage over protecting federal personnel. When local authorities abandon their duty, Title X federalization becomes necessary. Newsom's failure to secure federal property forced the guards' deployment. It's not overreach, but government order. Every minute spent coddling lawlessness is betrayal to the citizens footing the bill for the chaos. The fact behind these deployments and legal triggers are laid bare. It's sad, it really is. You know, but we're gonna switch gears and go to another story now, which this is it's breaking. President Donald Trump has signed the One Big Beautiful Bill into law, reducing the NFA tax on suppressors, short barrel rifles, and other arms to $0. Now, while I totally wanted them to completely remove them from the registry, I mean, anything is better than nothing. So, I mean, I would have preferred them to remove them from the registry entirely, to get rid of the NFA entirely. But you got to take your wins where you can, I guess. So, we can watch the signing.
A historic moment, as he has been touting all afternoon long. This is going to go down in history as his landmark legislation, President Trump's version of Obamacare, or President Biden's infrastructure bill. Mark Meredith is standing by. He is there, I think, still on the South Lawn.
Jillian, I sure am. We're still here on the South Lawn as the president is surrounded by those congressional delegations that pushed his legislative and tax policy package over the finish line. It was the president himself who wanted this to happen today on the 4th of July. It was a deadline that almost seemed impossible a few weeks ago, even maybe a few days ago, given some of the action that we saw in the Senate. But as the president talked about, he believes this package is going to be beneficial when it comes to the tax cuts that will last for a long period of time. No taxes, at least for a few years, on Social Security benefits, on overtime, as well as tips. That was a campaign promise that the president made, and we saw the Democrats.
A historic moment, as he has been touting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says, upon signing the One Big Beautiful Bill, NFA items with a 0% tax just became an illegal, unconstitutional gun registry database. Fix your headline. I hope so. I hope they're able to get rid of it. It does nothing for the actual NFA registry, which you all caved on. It did nothing on as usual. This isn't a win you think it is. This is at least the things that gun owners wanted to see, and it's all you got to see. After the Republican Party and anyone else who thinks this is better than nothing, it was never about the $200. I agree. It was never about the $200. I agree. All right, next story. Must read. John Brennan was my boss. He and Jim Comey deserve to rot in prison, along with anyone in the Obama White House or Clinton campaign who colluded with them. Charles and Company, I think there is some significance that the Mexican flag and the Palestinian flag have very similar colors. I think it's easy to, look at that way. I don't know what, J.H. Wallace was, he lives in Cali. Newsom is paying for this. They have grants that pay these organizations to hire these people to do this. It's sick and nothing normal people could do. This is plus totally off topic. You're hitting a Bronco live on stream made me so proud. I hope you keep after him. Tell him Joe is a friend of yours. He'll give you the handshake. Okay, I hope so. I'm going to try. I'm going to continue to pester him. He told me to email him, so I'm going to. Brian Dean Wright. So let's read this story and see what it says. I'm sure it's more of the same stuff. Why does this keep popping up? It says, Brian Dean Wright. John Brennan was my boss at CA. He belongs in prison. Well, I agree with him. He belongs in prison. Well, Q Revere comes in with $5 real quick to say the justification for the legality of the registry was the tax. Without it, watch the registry go bye-bye. Absolutely a win, in my honest opinion. I hope so. Because the only justification they had for the registry was because it was a tax. And that they needed the registry to keep track of the tax. Without the tax, it seems like it might be unconstitutional, in my opinion. I think it was unconstitutional to begin with. I think the entire NFA, my personal opinion is the NFA, the Gun Control Act of 1968, and the Hughes Amendment of 1984 are all unconstitutional. Or is it 1985? Either 84 or 85. I don't know. The Hughes Amendment, anyway. So. Let's see. Is this actually going to be a video? So I guess we can watch this. See what it says. Let's look at them.
Navy Mutual's level 2+
Really?
life insurance.
Really? You're going to do a friggin' commercial?
This is a Fox News alert. Brand new details about how Obama's CIA. Joining me now, and Matt Taibbi. The whole thing was a CIA setup. Former CIA director John Brennan identified 26 Trump associates to be targeted by the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance. And then those interactions were the targets and were targeted by the FBI as suspicious. And that's how the FBI launched the Russia collusion hoax. The details of this entire operation have been stored in a top secret binder in a secret room in Washington. Trump ordered the whole thing declassified. And now the rumor is that the binder might be missing. Joining me now,
I like to speed it up a little to 1.25.
Michael, explain how this all started with the CIA picking these 26 Trump people.
Yeah, good to be with you, Jesse. Well, obviously, this is an extremely serious story and serious allegation by multiple credible sources that Public and Racket, that's Matt Taibbi's publication, have spoken to. These are people that are close to the House intelligence investigation of how the Russia collusion hoax began. The story, as you mentioned, was that, we were just informed by foreign intelligence about this. Our sources tell us a very different story, which is that this was initiated by the U.S. government. It came from within the U.S. government's intelligence community, including the CIA, that they asked the so-called Five Eyes nations intelligence agencies, that's the other English-speaking nations, including Britain and Australia, to spy on 26 Trump associates, or at least they had a list of the 26 associates that were identified. This is new information. Some people have theorized about this and speculated about it. We feel very confident that our sources were in a position to know and are very credible in this report. It's obviously a very serious allegation because this is illegal spying and it's illegal election interference.
Okay.
Definitely illegal spying. Definitely illegal election interference.
That the CIA got these allies.
Okay. So says the Russia collusion hoax was initiated by the CIA. Yeah, definitely. Oh, Crew Rivera with another $5 comes in and says, all the money this man gives over to content creators, and I'm his second biggest contributor. Step it up, people. Yeah, people, step it up, man. Crew Rivera's telling you, you guys need to step it up. The only people holding it down right now are Q Revere and J.H. Swalbeck. Thank you, J.H. Swalbeck. You're the best. Former CIA Director John Brennan was once my boss. Given what we learned in a shocking new report about his role in the Trump-Russia hysteria, he should be in prison. Yeah, he should be. Here's why. The CIA released fresh details about the creation nearly 10 years ago of the agency's intelligence community assessment, the ICA, of Russian influence campaign of the 2016 presidential election. It found that the Russian President Vladimir Putin aspired to help then-candidate Donald Trump win the election. That assessment, ordered by then-President Barack Obama and executed by Brennan, ignited the Trump-Russia hoax. That would haunt Trump's presidency for years. Oh, yes, Death Angel Shadows, you did too. I'm sorry. I didn't. Now I feel bad. I'm sorry. I did not see that. I'm sorry. I'll pull it up right now. There it is. See. I pulled this up. I remember. I just forgot about the national bird. You know what? My bad. I'm a terrible person. I'm a horrible person. I should be punished. I should be flogged. Central Intelligence Agency CIA Director John Brennan participates in a session at the third annual. Yeah, he sucks. Ex-Obama intel boss wanted anti-Trump dossier included in the atypical 2016 assessment despite pushback. We're now learning 5 key details Brennan used to cook the books to ensure maximum damage to Trump. Number 1, Brennan lied about his use of the discredited Seal dossier. He told the Wall Street Journal in January of 2017 he never read it and gave it no particular credence. He was lying, and his former staffers now admit Brennan specifically pushed for inclusion of the dossier in the ICA, despite explicit warnings from the top operational and analytical management that the dossier did not meet the most basic of trade craft standards. Brennan said he didn't care. As we're now learning, he said he wanted it included because it fit the narrative consistency, aka Trump-Russia collusion, and that the then FBI director James Comey was demanding the same thing. And Comey was a Republican, remember, supposedly? Just like Christopher Wray. That's shocking because both Comey and Brennan's agencies had investigated its allegations in the fall in 2016 and found them not to be credible. But both Comey and Brennan still wanted it in, simply and clearly to destroy President Trump. Brennan manipulated who would write the ICA. As we're now learning, Brennan demanded that his agency take the lead in drafting the ICA, intentionally blocking out other intel agencies and the National Intelligence Council. As a new report confirms, that decision departed significantly from the stance procedures for the formal IC assessments. But why would Brennan do that? Yeah, why would Brennan do that? Does that make sense? Why would somebody do that? They'd have to be out to get somebody. That's the only thing that would make sense, right? Like they have like ulterior motives. They have some reason. As a former CIA officer, not me. I am not a former CIA officer. I am not a former CIA officer. Don't let anyone tell you that because they're lying to you. Jim will tell you he's not a former CIA officer. He wanted to control the authors, his employees, their assessment, any dissent, and their careers if they crossed him. Brennan interfered in the ICA drafting. Yes. Yeah, well, Bush Sr. was technically the head of the CIA when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. That's all I'm going to say about that. Technically. Because JFK had fired the top 2 people in the CIA and Bush was number 3, so Poppy Bush took over. But, hey, that's all I'm going to say about that. Oh, Julio Scissors with $10. Wow, thank you, Julio. Thank you very much for the donation. It's greatly appreciated. As the new report confirms, direct engagement in the ICA's development by agency head Brennan was highly unusual in both scope and intensity. This exceptional level of senior involvement likely influenced the participants, altered their normal review process, and ultimately compromised analytic rigor. In other words, Brennan knew he could make or break the careers of his analysts, and so he did, ensuring that he got the exact ICA he wanted, which included the junk dossier and a single source intel report on fabricated Trump-Russia collusion. Brennan rushed the completion of the ICA. As we're now learning, CIA analysts felt jammed by Brennan's timeline to produce the ICA by late December 2016, despite the fact the election had concluded and the ICA essentially was a post-mortem analysis of what had happened. The highly compressed timeline was atypical, which ordinarily can take months to prepare, especially for assessments of such length, complexity, and political sensitivity. But Brennan didn't care. He wanted it done by the time Trump got into office. He wanted to be able to use it against Trump. So did this clown, Comey. Brennan and Comey spread the ICA far and wide to leak it. The new report confirms that Brennan and Comey shared the IC with more than 200 U.S. officials. This is highly unusual for such a highly compartmented product, like a skiff. This should have been in a skiff. It was, highly secret, but they just spread it out everywhere because they wanted it leaked. And then once it got leaked, they went, oh. In fact, that's what the New York Times suspected too, as they asked their readers in 2017, why would Brennan and Comey have briefed and shared the discredited dossier to multiple people in Congress and the executive branch, virtually assuring it would be leaked? Yeah, because they did it on purpose. The answer? Brennan and Comey spread the ICA and the dossier far and wide to ensure it all leaked and hobbled Donald Trump to destroy his presidency and to basically subvert the will of the American people. Bottom line, John Brennan, James Comey, and their fellow anti-Trumpers in the U.S. intelligence community intentionally tried to destroy the presidency of Donald Trump with a tightly controlled, scripted, rushed, and poorly sourced ICA and dossier. In doing so, they tried to destroy not just the president, but also the republic itself, and that's why it still matters today. These men thought they knew what was best for America, and they didn't give a good gosh darn what voters like you thought. It was their country, not yours. They were willing to act with their profound powers to destroy a politician they didn't like. That's why these men deserve to rot in prison, along with anyone in the Obama White House or Clinton campaign who colluded with them. And I will go a little further. I think the ultimate punishment for treason is a little bit more than rotting in prison. It's rotting in the ground. So, all right. Now we're going to jump to another story, which is a little bit more, I'll say, a little bit more comedy, a little, pick me up giggles type of thing. So here we go. It says, Indian engineer caught secretly working up to 5 tech jobs simultaneously offered a new gig at Cheat on Everything startup. This is hilarious. Text me for work. Well, he beat corporate America at their own game. They collect people. Indian engineer caught secretly working at up to 5 tech jobs simultaneously offered a new gig at Cheat on Everything startup. A Silicon Valley hiring scandal has erupted around an Indian software engineer accused of secretly working for as many as 5 technology companies simultaneously, exposing vulnerabilities in startup recruitment practices and reigniting debates over remote work accountability. Soham Parekh, based in India, faces mounting allegations from multiple Y Combinator-backed startup founders who claim he misrepresented his employment history while juggling concurrent positions. Suhail Doshi, founder of the artificial intelligence startup Playground AI, first exposed the alleged scheme in a series of posts detailing how his company discovered Parekh's simultaneous employment at 3 to 4 other firms. Playground AI terminated Parekh within a week of hiring him in 2024. PSA, there's this guy named Soham Parekh in India who works at 3 to 4 startups at the same time. He's been preying on YC companies and more. Beware. I fired this guy in his first week and told him to stop lying, scamming people. He hasn't stopped a year later. No more excuses. Oh, and look at that. John Mosley with $10 says, Happy 4th of July. Well, happy 4th of July to you, John Mosley. Happy Independence Day. Happy Birth of America Day. Now, I know that this is not the 250th anniversary of America, but today would be the 250th Independence Day of America, because the very first Independence Day would be July 4th, 1776. And then every July 4th subsequent to that, which counting today would be the 250th July 4th. So, might not be the 250th anniversary of America, because, you know, your first anniversary is 1 year from the date you were born. But this is the 250th day of July 4th in America's history of this, you know, Declaration of Independence. So technically, you know, this is the 250th 4th of July for America. Whatever, you know, whatever. Probably 90% fake, and most links are gone. I don't know why. It shows his background: Georgia Institute of Technology, University of Mumbai. You know, all these different things, software engineer stuff. Yeah. His resume was 90% fake, Doshi wrote, sharing documentation that lists previous positions at prominent AI companies, including Dynamo AI, Union AI, and Synthesia. The founder also published what he claimed was private messages from Parekh expressing remorse. Have I completely sabotaged my career? What can I do to improve my situation? I am happy to come clean. The allegations quickly snowballed as other tech executives came forward with similar experiences. Fleet AI CEO Nikolai Oprovo claimed that Parekh had worked for his company and suggested that his behavior was systemic. Okay, I'm going to address this right now. It's 2025, which is odd. 250 is even. 76 is even. Yes, but you have to count the first one, 1776, that year as one. So if you go, you know, obviously 1776 to 2026 would be 250 years. But the date, okay, you follow my logic here, all right? I know people aren't going to say, oh, it's not, but on July 4th, 1776 is one. July 4th, 1776 is number one. And every subsequent year, so including this year, would be adding 249 to that one. So it's 249 4th of Julys plus the first one makes 250. This Soham guy is devious. Proud to say we only worked with him for 1 week. I have friends who employed him for years. Let's talk about he's going to be New York and yeah. See, Darth Angel Shadows, he got it. He understands. It's the 250th Independence Day. It's the 249th anniversary. It's 100% right. So, without the YC community, this guy would still be operating and might have never been caught. The Startup Guild of YC is necessary invention to help founders be more successful than they would be alone. They would have got away for it if it weren't for those meddling kids. Matthew Parker, CEO of the cloud cost optimization startup Animetal, described firing Parekh after discovering his multi-concurrent positions. Despite calling the engineer really smart and likable, Parker has quipped that hiring Soham is a new rite of passage in the startup community. Funnily enough, Soham was our first engineer hire in 2022. Really smart and likable, enjoyed working with him. We realized pretty quickly that he was working at multiple companies and let him go. I can't imagine the amount of equity he's left on the table. There's this guy, Soham Parekh in India, who works at 3 to 4 startups at the same time. He's been praying on, yeah, we saw that. Yet the controversy surrounding Perec shouldn't take anyone by surprise. 2024 research from SideHustles.com found that 1/3 of remote workers maintain multiple jobs, compared to 20% of in-person workers and 17% of hybrid workers. 25% of employees hold multiple positions, averaging 50 hours per week across their roles. You must know Toxic Man flew from Comics Division. He likes to call me that too. Midnight Math. Remote workers are increasingly working multiple jobs due to the rising cost of living in recent years. Additionally, many remote roles are relatively easy to manage, allowing workers to take on additional jobs without a noticeable drop in productivity. The controversy has even attracted opportunistic job offers, with Cluely CEO Roy Lee, whose AI tools help users cheat on everything from job interviews to sales call, reached out to Perec with a job offer. So that's pretty funny. Now, I don't understand, like, if the guy, I don't think does it matter if the guy's working at a bunch of different companies if he's doing the job? Are they saying he's not doing the job? I don't think it really matters. If you're able to do the work that they require of you and you're doing good work, what difference does it make? Unless are they saying that he was a fraud and he couldn't actually do the work? I wish the story would have been a little more elucidating. And I'm going to try something today too. I did sign up for that Ground News site. It wasn't cheap, but it was, but I signed up for that Ground News. We're going to use that in a couple stories to look at different things and talk about stuff. So, but not yet. All right. So we're going to jump to the next story. Here we go. Justice Alito is sounding the alarm. Rogue judges are already finding ways around the Supreme Court's ruling against nationwide injunction. This isn't just a legal theory. So yeah, there's been a lot of crazy stuff going on with injunctions, and there's been one judge who just decided to tell the Supreme Court to F off twice so far, and he was possibly going to do it again today. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. It's already being used to undermine Trump. Here's what you need to know. Yeah. And there's something else I want people to really think about too. Chief Justice John Roberts was appointed by George W. Bush in, I think, 2006 or 2005 or 2006, but it doesn't really matter. And George W. Bush decided to make him, to say he's going to be the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and they pushed that, rushed it through, and did it. But he shouldn't have been the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court because he was not the most senior. It's supposed to be somebody that's more senior. It's supposed to be the Chief Justice. It should have been somebody that was already on the court. But I guess that W, for whatever reason, wanted it to be Roberts. But just think of how different the Supreme Court would be, what the rulings would look like, what kind of country this would be if we would have had a Chief Justice Sam Alito, or if we would have had a Chief Justice Clarence Thomas. Just imagine that. The Supreme Court with a Chief Justice Clarence Thomas. How much better would America be with Clarence Thomas making decisions about who writes decisions? About who gets assigned where? Yeah, I don't either, Darth Angel Shadows, but technically, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, I think, is the only person who's actually in the Constitution. It says there'll be one Supreme Court with one, Chief Justice and stuff, and then there's however many associate justices that the Congress desires, or whatever. So I just, oh my God, if we would have had a Chief Justice Clarence Thomas, I think we'd all have machine guns and vending machines by now. That's all I'm going to say about that. The Supreme Court just banned nationwide injunctions. For years, activist judges blocked Trump's policies nationwide, even when only one person sued. The court finally ended that abuse in the Trump v. Casa. But Justice Alito warned a loophole remains. That loophole, class actions and state-led lawsuits. Alito wrote that if judges start rubber stamping class actions or letting blue states sue on behalf of all residents, then universal injunctions will be back from the grave just under a different name. It's already happening. Just this week, D.C. Judge Randolph Moss, a Biden ally and Obama appointee, struck down Trump's border proclamation. He then broke the rules to certify it as a class action that applies to all asylum seekers everywhere. So basically, 8 billion people in the world are part of this guy's class. Alito's warning in real time. To try and circumvent the Supreme Court ruling on nationwide injunctions, a Marxist judge has declared that all potential future illegal aliens on foreign soil, e.g. a large portion of planet Earth, are part of a protected global class entitled to admission into the United States. Federal judge says President Trump needs to reopen the border for asylum seekers. WTF? A judge is trying to reinstate the invasion. Do not listen to this ruling at all. Why does this judge look awfully familiar? Doesn't that judge look like Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, it looks like Jeffrey Epstein. That's what this judge looks like to me. That's what I see when I see him. I go, that's Jeffrey Epstein. Why is Jeffrey Epstein a judge deciding cases? What is going on? Is this Theory Thursday? Is this craziness? Trump's policy was simple. If you cross the border illegally, you don't get to claim asylum. Apply before you come, use the app. The goal, end the abuse of the asylum loopholes and restore law and order. Judge Moss just nullified it for the entire country. He's a tyrant. This is what he wants back. He wants this parade, these caravans of illegals just pouring into the country. A.G. Bonnie nailed it. This is a rogue district court judge circumventing the Supreme Court just days after their ruling. He didn't use a nationwide injunction. He just used a bogus class action to do the same thing. It's lawfare with a robe. Alito warned against exactly this. Today's decision will be little more than an academic interest, he wrote, if class certification becomes a loophole. Translation, if we don't hold the line on Rule 23, the abuse will never stop. And there's another problem. Democrat states. Blue states are suing on behalf of their residents, seeking rulings that apply to everyone in the state. That's not justice, it's judicial activism at scale. And Alito warned it's a threat to the court's authority itself. All these people need to be in jail, all three of them. Conservatives, it's time to go on the offensive. Judicial activists can't be allowed to override the Constitution. Trump is fighting back. Alito is warning the country. Share this thread and expose the rogue judges and demand accountability. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Jump to. Come on. Why is my computer? Jump to this story. Breaking. Supreme Court greenlights deportations to South Sudan. 6-3 decision strikes a major blow against rogue judges and for immigration enforcement. Here's what just happened and why it matters. Oh, well, we're coming up on the 1 hour mark. We're at about 59 minutes right now. So I'm going to say to the people on X and Facebook, we're going to say goodbye to you for the evening. If you'd like to watch the rest of the show, which is probably going to go for another 2 to 3 hours, depending on how many super chats come in, hint, hint, go ahead and come on over to either YouTube or Rumble. But for now, have a safe and happy 4th of July, Twitter and Facebook, and we'll see you all tomorrow, probably on. But come on over to YouTube and Rumble to continue watching. Okay, here we are. Here's why it matters. Let me look at something. Let me check the Rumble. I haven't been in Rumble. No, I don't have any chats in Rumble. That's weird. No chats in Rumble? Oh. Weird. No chats in Rumble. Okie dokie. Huh. Okay. No, X allows longer than 1 hour, but I don't know. X is just so. Hey, Tika, how you doing? X is just. I don't know. I just don't like to keep streaming there, and then I'd like people to come to either YouTube or Rumble. X is so hard to actually get anything to. They keep changing the rules on X, how to make money, and keep lowering it and stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of a waste of time to actually stream to X. It really is. 8 criminal illegal aliens are being held at a U.S. base, Djibouti. They're being deported to South Sudan. Democrats want them on our streets. A federal judge tried to block it after the Supreme Court said DHS could proceed. Now SCOTUS has shut them down again. That's twice. Judge Brian Murphy claimed his earlier order still blocked deportations, but DHS called that a lawless act of defiance, and they were right. The Supreme Court just told them flat out, your injunction is unenforceable. Petty Marxist tyrant. This guy, by the way, Brian Murphy, or Judge Murphy, was appointed by Joe Biden was confirmed in December of 2024 by the do-nothing rhinos. Mitch McConnell let him slide on through. Just saying. Democrats tried to spin this as cruelty. Justice Sotomayor whined that these men were being sent to a dangerous country. But this is what she left out. These are all criminal aliens. They all were convicted of crimes, violent crimes, serious crimes. They were all here illegally. They were all ordered to be removed years ago. Why do Democrats think America is the most racist, hateful, oppressive place on earth, worse than Gaza, worse than Cuba, worse than Iran, and that black people just randomly get gunned down by cops, and they want them all to come and stay here? Crazy, right? Doesn't make sense. Let's see. Let's watch this.
I'm Ami Horowitz, and I'm here in Berkeley, California to find out if voter ID laws suppress the black vote.
Or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
A lot of people have smartphones, but they might not have data.
For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed. I also think there's a repression of
did you hear that? They said that black people aren't informed. That's racist.
When you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the
I hate to break it to you, honey. Florida ain't a swing state no more. No more. You guys solved that problem.
African Americans.
Now I'm here in East Harlem to ask black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? Do you carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have
Why
ID?
would they say that?
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID, so we know what we need to carry around.
Yeah, everybody that I know have ID. Like, that's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, ID.
Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to...
Very weird thing, you know. It's a very, very weird thing. It's a very weird thing for people to, for them to say these things. Oh, Wrestler Town. I guess Wrestler Town has a thing. He says he makes $10,000 a month on X by posting at Grok. Is this true? 10 million times. Oh, so you're the one who I keep seeing all that stuff in, huh? Bet they wouldn't say that to their face because you are ignorant. Oh, there we go. There's some people in the Twitter. They said, Costa Rica expat, happy Independence Day, great 249. Okay, so this case isn't about South Sudan or Sudanese illegals. It's about whether a local judge can override the constitutional power of the executive branch and the Supreme Court. Spoiler alert, no, he can't. This wasn't just judicial overreach, it was judicial mutiny, and it just got crushed. Yeah, that guy needs to get crushed. Like this guy, technically, if this guy tries to pull something else and does anything else, I think that the Department of Justice should order the U.S. Marshals to arrest him for sedition. Because you can't just keep ignoring and doing these things, and basically he's deciding that he's the king when he ignores the Supreme Court and ignores all the laws. So arrest him. Biden judge defies Supreme Court, says his order barring deportations of illegal aliens to South Sudan remains in effect. U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy on Monday evening defied the U.S. Supreme Court and said that his order barring deportation of illegal aliens to South Sudan remains in effect. The post-breaking Biden judge defied Supreme Court. Yep. Kagan shockingly agreed, at least with the outcome. She didn't like the June 23rd decision, but she admitted a district court cannot enforce an order the Supreme Court stayed. That's a pretty basic point, but it had to be made because Democrat judges are ignoring it. And unfortunately, two other retards on the Supreme Court decided that they were going to disagree with that. Sotomayor's dissent was unhinged. She accused the Trump administration of ignoring international law and basic human rights, but no law requires the U.S. to take criminal aliens or keep them here. In fact, the law requires that we deport them. It makes no sense. The decision is clear for the future. Rogue judges cannot defy SCOTUS. Yes, criminal aliens can be deported. Yes, the executive branch controls immigration, not activist courts. This is a win for sovereignty, order, and the separation of powers. Hooray! The big picture is this. This ruling strengthens Trump's mass deportation agenda and sends a warning shot to the lower courts. You want to block lawful removals? Too bad. The Supreme Court isn't playing. Neither is DHS or Trump. Well, the easiest way to have him removed from the bench would be for the Supreme Court to do it. Like the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court could issue saying that he's removed, he's stripped. Supreme Court ultimately oversees all of the lower courts. That's part of our, they can decide that someone no longer is fit to serve. They could, say, no, sorry, you're not following the rulings. You got to go. Bye. Would they do it? I don't know. But that would be the thing that needs to happen. Here, Stephen Miller says, the same district judge who declared all future illegal aliens on planet Earth as a protected class just overruled the Supreme Court after SCOTUS ruled twice to block the deportation of 8 illegal murderers, child predators, and rapists. America is being pillaged by judicial fiat. Did this district court judge just issue a TRO enjoining removal of the same 8 people the Supreme Court has now twice reversed a Boston judge on? This is insane. Thanks to Ilan Werman for pointing this out. Truly bonkers. Breaking. In a new case, Judge Randolph Moss issued an administrative stay this morning, blocking the Trump administration from moving, transferring, or moving from the U.S. custody 8 men in the U.S. wants to send to South Sudan while the stay remains in effect. More to come at Law Dork. In light of the plaintiff's motion for a temporary restraining order, the court hereby enters an administrative stay pending further order of the court to allow the government to gather the information it needs to respond to the plaintiff's motion for a temporary restraining order and to provide time for a hearing on that emergency motion. Describing administrative stays as freezing legal proceedings until the court can rule on the party's request for expedited release. Defendants are enjoined from moving, transferring, or removing from the U.S. custody of any plaintiffs while the court administrative stay remains in effect. It's so ordered of the court. This guy should be immediately removed from the bench. It says, Moss has scheduled a hearing in this new habeas action for 12:30. Tried to secure remote access, but have been unsuccessful because it's an immigration habeas case. The filings are not publicly accessible on the PACER, but the orders are. The case is Fon versus DHS. Yep. Guy should be removed for cause. Here's the question. Dem senators keep asking Trump nominees if they need to follow court orders. What is to be done about district courts defying the Supreme Court? It's a huge problem. Another question. The Supreme Court stay was of an order purporting to give relief to a whole class. Certifying the class was likely error, but the judge did it. So shouldn't a Supreme Court stay of relief also apply to the whole class, no matter if there's a new case? I'm concerned that a district court openly defying the Supreme Court may create a constitutional crisis. Fortunately for the country, that we have the strong supporter of norms and judiciary, President Trump in office to support the Chief Justice and the court reining this in. President Trump should not have to win the same case 3 times in front of the Supreme Court. The district court should not ignore the Supreme Court, and they should make clear this is unacceptable. Yesterday, the district court overruled for the second time. They threatened the judicial equivalent of a nuke. Also yesterday, overlapping plaintiffs openly defying the Supreme Court. The judge granted forbidden relief. This is judicial rebellion. Wow, the complaint in the new Sudanese deportation case, D.C. openly admits they are filing to defy the Supreme Court's ruling in the Boston case. They are filing in D.C. They are filing in D.C. to preserve the status quo in a Boston case because SCOTUS ruled against them in the latter case. To preserve the status quo, at least while DVD is pending, plaintiffs seek relief from their imminent removal to South Sudan as impermissibly punitive. Defendants abuse of the removal process and disregard of basic legal tenets to banish plaintiffs to South Sudan. These lawyers who filed this should actually be sanctioned. This is not, this is sanctional behavior, and they should be sanctioned. Enough is enough. The Trump administration must ignore this clearly lawless order, which blatantly defies 2 recent Supreme Court orders. The Chief Justice must take immediate remedial action. The House and Senate Judiciary Committees must announce aggressive oversight hearings. The House and Senate Appropriation Committees must cut these activist judges' budgets. The House must move forward with impeachment proceedings. Time to take off the gloves. That's right, man. Yeah, that's time. Supreme Court was crystal clear. Twice. The government can deport illegals to third countries. District judges work for the Supreme Court, not the other way around. D.C. Obama judge Randolph Moss is a lawless and dangerous clown. Ignore him. Defund him. Impeach him. Why does he look like Jeffrey? You guys going to tell me this guy doesn't look like Jeffrey Epstein? Look at him. That's Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein is on a... This is crazy. This is nuts. Moss has grave concerns. There we go. We'll start up here. Happening now. Emergency proceedings are underway related to the potentially deportation of 8 men to South Sudan before Judge Randy Moss in Washington. The men are teed up to be transferred at 7 p.m. tonight, but Moss is sending the case to Massachusetts where he says it should be handled. Moss granted a 1-hour stay to give lawyers for the men a chance to file their emergency claim in Massachusetts. Lawyers for the Trump administration say they will appeal to the Supreme Court immediately. Moss has grave concerns about facilitating the deportation of people to potentially life-threatening circumstances in South Sudan, but he thinks his hands are tied by the Supreme Court's stay yesterday. Still, he said SCOTUS rulings were devoid of reasoning, so it's not clear. And you know who said he's using the term devoid of reasoning? Because that's what Sotomayor said in her dissent. So it's another guy quoting the dissent for his explanation, which is not supposed to be allowed. The hearing is over. Moss essentially said that he couldn't help but would send a case to Massachusetts. The lawyers for the men aren't sure they can raise a judge on July 4th in time to even ask for relief ahead of the 7 p.m. deportation. Moss has formally transferred the case to Judge Murphy's court. Judge Murphy, we talked about Judge Murphy earlier. The question is if he can take up any and consider emergency relief in time for the deportation tonight, and if he will go there, considering the Supreme Court's rebuke of him on Thursday. It's almost self-evident that the United States cannot take human beings and send them to circumstances where their physical well-being is at risk simply to punish them or to send a signal to others. Lawyers for 8 men are racing to get an emergency help from a judge before the Trump administration deports them tonight to South Sudan. A judge in D.C. gave them a 1-hour reprieve. Judge Murphy denies the emergency motion. It appears the men will be South Sudan bound within an hour. He lays it at the feet of the Supreme Court. don't know why it does that, why it jumps. Judge Brian E. Murphy, electronic order. The habeas petition was transferred, Fan et al. The relief sought by petitioners was initially granted by this court, but later stayed by the Supreme Court. This court interprets the Supreme Court orders as binding on this new petition, as petitioners are now raising substantially similar claims, and therefore petitioner's motion is denied. Maybe we should call all the members of SCOTUS to appear in front of him in court and explain themselves, because that's what this idiot apparently thinks he deserves. These judges are performative lunatics. They will do anything for their moment in the anti-Trump spotlight. If they want to play leftist politicians, step down from the bench and run for office. No, this is another thing explaining this. It says, breaking. Judge Randy Moss in D.C. briefly pauses Trump administration bid to deport 8 men to South Sudan. Moss, the U.S. government shouldn't be trying to punish people who served their sentences. Halts deport to 4:30 p.m. Sends case to Massachusetts with third country deportation litigation. Moss also griped, observed that SCOTUS left no more than tea leaves about the meanings of its recent rulings on the issue. No, they didn't. The Supreme Court said, you can't do this, knock it off. Case is now in Massachusetts. Perhaps you mean a reminder. The Supreme Court was crystal clear. That's right. So we're going to do this. We're going to read this story from Politico, and then I'll jump to the AP story about the judge's other ruling. So, judge clears way for U.S. to deport 8 men to South Sudan. The stay is expected to expire Friday evening. A federal judge denied a last-ditch bid for legal protection from 8 men seeking to stave off deportation to South Sudan, saying the Supreme Court has given the final word on the matter 2 days earlier. U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy denied an emergency motion by the men to prevent deportations to the war-torn African nation, scheduled for later Friday evening. They are currently housed in a shipping container on a U.S. military base in Djibouti. Well, let me just say, it must be very uncomfortable in Djibouti if there's a shipping container there. Murphy's decision came after a frenzied day in court by attorneys for the 8 men, who initially filed an emergency petition in Washington, D.C. before a federal judge there sent the case back to Massachusetts. The July 4th drama came a day after the Supreme Court lifted an order by Murphy that had blocked deportation. This court interprets these Supreme Court orders as binding on this new petition, Murphy said in a brief order, as petitioners are now raising substantially similar claims and therefore petitioner's motion is denied. The order came just hours after Washington, D.C.-based U.S. District Court Judge Randolph Moss concluded, following a pair of hearings held by video conference on the 4th of July holiday, that he had to punt the case back to Murphy. Moss seemed unsure whether it was proper for him to intercede on behalf of 8 men, given the case's long history in Massachusetts and the recent Supreme Court decisions. Moss, an Obama appointed, seemed torn over the issue, recognizing that his decision could condemn the men to deportation to a nation the State Department warns is dangerous for anyone but specialized personnel. But he said the Supreme Court's refusal to halt the deportations Thursday and the long-running proceedings taking place in Massachusetts counseled against his involvement. Justice Department Attorney Hashim Mupan, represented the Trump administration, said the on-again, off-again orders from courts were complicating the already difficult process of deporting individuals whose home countries refused to take them back. Of the 8 men, only 1 is from South Sudan. It's going to make foreign countries less likely to engage to accept these transfers, Mupan said. Mupan told Moss that the flight from Djibouti to South Sudan is scheduled for 7 p.m. and that the administration would appeal to the Federal Appeals Court or the Supreme Court if necessary to carry it out. After the initial legal fight broke out in May, the Trump administration called a press conference to display photos of the men and publicize the fact that they've all been convicted of serious crimes. But Moss said it appeared that the men had served their criminal sentences, so the U.S. government shouldn't be trying to inflict additional punishment on them by sending them to a nation where they could face a serious threat of harm or persecution. Deportation is not punishment. How does this judge not know that? They don't have a right to be here, so sending them away is not considered punishment. It's almost self-evident that the U.S. government cannot take human beings and send them to circumstances where their physical well-being is at risk simply to punish them or send them a signal to others, Moss said. People are at risk anywhere in the world. Don't they understand that? I mean, this is ridiculous. However, the judge ultimately concluded the Supreme Court's recent actions impacting the men in the litigation underway in Boston meant their claims should be heard there and not in Washington court. I do believe that these cases should be handled in a single case instead of multiple cases around the country, Moss said. 8 men have been marooned in Djibouti since May. Wow, that's terrible. To be marooned in Djibouti for months. Must be stinky and hot. Oh. Oof. When Murphy halted their deportation to South Sudan, including that the men violated an order he issued requiring advance notice and meaningful chance to object before people being deported from the U.S. are sent to countries where they have no previous ties, Murphy also halted an earlier attempt to send the men to Libya. They have been living in a shipping container for nearly 6 weeks waiting for a resolution from the courts, though Murphy allowed the administration to relocate them to another U.S. facility or back to the mainland so long as they remained in American custody. While the men and several U.S. immigration officers guarding them remained at Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti, the Trump administration also fought a court battle against Murphy's orders. Last week, the Supreme Court blocked Murphy's broad nationwide order requiring certain steps before third country deportations. And on Thursday, the justices voided separate orders the Biden appointee issued regarding the 8 men. However, in neither instance did the High Court's majority explain its concern about Murphy's original order. They don't have to fucking explain himself to a lower court judge. They don't have to. They just say, no, you're wrong. It's over. Leaving lawyers to speculate about whether the justices disagreed with his conclusions about the due process deportees are entitled. They stayed his orders. Obviously, they disagreed. Whether the justice objected to the nationwide scope of his order or whether they harbored some other concern. Doesn't matter. Everything in his order was stayed. During the hearings Friday, Moss repeatedly lamented the uncertainty left by the Supreme Court's ruling on the issues and said the public was left to read the tea leaves. No, they're not. They're trying to be obtuse. That's it. They're purposely trying to be obtuse. I don't know why they want to make the Supreme Court. I don't know what to make of what the Supreme Court did because it's one of the downsides of the emergency docket, the judge said. We just don't know which of those arguments the Supreme Court found convincing in ordering the relief it ordered. It doesn't matter. They ordered the relief on all of those things. I mean, how do I understand it and these people don't? I just don't get it. All right. Now we're going to jump to another way to look at this, which is ground news, which I said I just recently subscribed to. It says, judge briefly blocks immigrants' deportation to South Sudan. And it's great about ground news, so you guys know, it says it's center, and you can go right, and it'll give you different opinions, and you can go left, and it'll give you the left's opinion. So first, we're going to go with the center. See what it says. It'll say, following the 4th of July hearing in Washington, a federal judge temporarily stopped the removal of 8 immigrants destined for conflict-ridden South Sudan and transferred the case to a judge in Boston. The Supreme Court had green-lighted the immigrants' removal the day before. New claims by their lawyers prompted Judge Randolph Moss to pause the transfers temporarily. They're not new claims. Those lawyers should face sanctions. The administration had been trying to deport immigrants from Laos, Mexico, Myanmar, Vietnam, and other countries to South Sudan, despite none being South Sudanese, and the U.S. government warns against travel there due to civil war. Judge Moss temporarily prevented the administration from relocating the immigrants from Djibouti until his 4:30 p.m. hearing took place, stating that their new legal claims warranted consideration. The administration intended to proceed with their flight on Friday. The temporary halt and case reassignment suggests ongoing judicial scrutiny over deportation to a dangerous region, reflecting legal tensions despite the Supreme Court's approval of removal. So it's saying this is from 63% sources center and 88% of sources are highly factual. Let's see what the right wing has to say. A federal judge, Moss transferred the case. The Supreme Court clarified that deportation immigrants still can occur, but emergency requests for federal stop. Administration intended to deport the immigrants. All right. Now let's look what the left has to say. Watch this. Federal judge halted sending the case to Judge Brian Murphy. New claims made by the immigrants' lawyer warranted a hearing. The Supreme Court previously allowed deportation, confirming that immigrants can be removed. Lawyers for immigrants who are from various countries, but not South Sudan, filed emergency requests. So you see, yeah. So we can let's go back to the center. So we can look. There's a bunch of different articles talking about it. So I like this site. I think I'm going to use it more often. But here we're going to go to the AP and look at the AP story on this because somebody sent this to me. Judge briefly blocks immigrants' deportation to South Sudan, but legal path eventually cleared. Despite despite a federal judge briefly halting deportation of 8 immigrants to war-torn South Sudan, he and a second judge eventually cleared the way for the Trump administration to relocate the immigrants the day after the Supreme Court greenlighted the removal. See, here's the thing. The Supreme Court greenlighted the removal, so these other judges should have never said nothing. They should have said, sorry, we can't help you. The Supreme Court said they can go. The unusually busy 4th of July court schedule began with District Judge Randolph Moss in Washington putting a temporary hold on deportations while he evaluated a last-ditch appeal by the immigrants' lawyers. In an afternoon hearing, he decided he was powerless to halt the removals. He should have decided that before he did anything. He should have looked at it and said, sorry, I have no power. There was no reason to do what he did. What he did was unlawful. Oh, Pat Hacker says, what did I cover the first hour? The first hour, I covered some stuff about legal immigrants and the country and this unrest in L.A., and some stuff about the CIA and that stuff, and mostly. Wait, what just happened? Oh, there it is. Oh crap! Sorry. That sucked. Okay. Got it back. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, sorry. Anyway, the cost of care for illegals in these 4 months was $434 million. Yeah. No, you didn't break me. I hit the wrong button. I got so many tabs open, and the tabs are so small that I end up hitting X's sometimes when I don't intend on it, losing stuff. It's not your fault. But thanks for being here. I just want to tell everybody thanks for being here. I know you got a lot of things you could be doing on this 4th of July, but you're deciding to spend them here with me. It's 11:30 Eastern Time on the 250th 4th of July in American history. Remember that. And just want to thank you for being here. Please remember to hit the like and subscribe button. If you'd... Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Jim Satala. You can follow me on Locals at Satala Consulting LLC. YouTube is at Jim Tells You. Rumble is at Jim Tells You. And, if you notice, there is a goal for this evening to continue to show longer than 2 hours. We are a couple away. Let's see here. We are a couple super chats away. Right now we have 6 out of 10 to go an extra hour. We have 37 minutes left to get an additional 4 super chats, teal or larger. So that's what we're looking for. Oh, while I'm at it, this is what I'm going to do, just to show everybody how I'm going to give away right now myself 5 memberships. Myself, Trumpinator. This goes with that. So. Dolores Hamilton received a Jim Tells You membership. Diamond G received a Jim Tells You membership. Fitzy received a Jim Tells You membership. Georgina Floyd, and Captain Vrag received a Jim Tells You membership. And Trumpinator says, thanks for being here for $5. Thank you, Trumpinator. Thank you very, very much. So now we are only 3 away. We only need 3 more super chats in 36 minutes to reach the goal to go an additional hour or 2. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thanks for being here, all of you guys. And Jim Tells You gifted 5 Jim Tells You memberships. Oh, the Marlins lost. That's too bad. That's just too bad. Friday evening, Murphy issued a brief ruling concluding that the Supreme Court had tied his hands. They should have tied his hands and put some tape over his mouth. The court interprets these Supreme Court orders as binding on this new petition, as petitioners are now raising substantially similar claims, therefore the motion must be denied. Raises his fist in the air and shakes it like Kevin saying, math, con, yeah. But, it also, I did want to point out too, like if anyone doesn't like to use YouTube or doesn't like to use Rumble, Rants, or doesn't like to use any of those other services. There is also a Cash App in the top right of the screen that you could, make a tip, a donation, whatever, if you feel like, you enjoy what you're seeing and want it to continue and like that, yeah. So, all right. So, the administration had earlier said it intended Friday to move the immigrants from the U.S. naval base in Djibouti, where their guards have lingered for weeks as their case ricocheted through the courts. Oh, come on, stop it. The administration has been trying to deport the immigrants for weeks. None are from South Sudan, which is enmeshed in a civil war and where the U.S. government has advised against travel. The government flew them to Djibouti, but couldn't move them further because Murphy had ruled no immigrant could be sent to a new country without a chance to have a court hearing. The Supreme Court vacated that decision last month, then issued a new order on Thursday night clarifying that it meant the immigrants could be moved to South Sudan. Lawyers for the immigrants who hail from Laos, Mexico, Myanmar, and Vietnam and other countries filed an emergency request to halt the removal later that night. The temporary stay was first reported by legal journalist Chris Gedner. All right, we're going to jump to another story now. And this is not, this is a news story, and it's a medic. What the hell is going on? Why is... Medicaid cuts and Trump's tax cuts. What this means for millions of Americans. This is coming from the USA Today. The hell? I'm about to get mad. Shortly, well, there we go. How did this happen? Okay. Millions of Americans who get health insurance through Medicaid will face new hurdles after the House passed President Donald Trump's massive tax cut and spending bill, which includes deep cuts to the nation's safety net health insurance program. Now, from what I've seen, from everything I've seen, the only cuts to Medicaid were that they said they will not reimburse states anymore for illegals. And then they put in some work requirements saying if you're an able-bodied person, you have to either work or volunteer 40 hours a month to be able to collect Medicaid. So I don't know why they're saying they're deep cuts. Trump's marquee bill extends the 2017 tax cuts, ends taxes on tips and overtime, and bolsters border security. It also takes aim at Medicaid, the federal and state health program that covers 78 million low-income children and adults as of March 2025. The bill approved by the Senate on July 1st and the House on July 3rd is projected to cut $1 trillion mostly from Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act insurance plans and eliminate insurance coverage for 11.8 million over the next decade. Illegal aliens. It's cutting the coverage from illegal aliens. Another 5 million can use health insurance because the bill doesn't extend former President Joe Biden's COVID-19 pandemic era tax credits. Well, of course, why would we have COVID-19 tax credits? It doesn't make any sense. What the hell's going on? Why did I lose so many viewers? Did someone just go live that I lost all these viewers? Huh. Oh, yeah. It looks like a bunch of people just went live. Why does it keep doing this? What the hell is going on? I'm getting... Jesus. Fucking pop-ups. Yeah. Health policy experts say the legislation amounts to a partial rollback of the health insurance gains under former President Barack Obama's signature 2010 health care law, Affordable Care Act. Yeah, which made health care unaffordable for everyone. It's a giant step backwards from the revision of the original universal coverage that was President Obama's legacy. Ugh. a research professor and executive director and co-founder of Georgetown's Healthcare. Yeah, that's exactly true. The same people who say Americans will lose their health care are the same group that brought you immigrants being whipped by people on horseback, Russian collusion, and such. But Republicans say Medicaid overhaul is vital to protect taxpayers while motivating non-disabled Medicaid recipients to seek work to maintain their coverage, which is true. Shortly before the House advanced a bill to Trump's desk, Speaker Mike Johnson said work requirements will restore dignity and purpose to those on taxpayer-funded health benefits. How would the bill change Medicaid? The Affordable Care Act established a federal and state exchanges where people can purchase subsidized health care plans. Obama's health law also gave the states option to expand Medicaid. That's interesting. That's interesting. Let's do this. Let's search. I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, let's do this. Let's look at this real quick. Wow. No free benefits for illegal aliens. Rep. Mary Miller, Alien Gala. Rep. Mary Miller says no free benefits for illegal aliens and calls for stronger work requirements to restore American self-reliance. We supported her fight for welfare reform and putting America first. No free benefits for illegal aliens. Fear porn. State-funded media continues to carry water for unhinged Democrats suffering from TDS. Do you think there's a serious threat to the future of democracy? This is a poll. As the United States marks the July 4th holiday, a significant number of Americans say they are concerned about the state of the nation's democracy. According to the latest PBS Marist poll, released this week, more than 3/4 of U.S. adults say that when thinking about the issues that divide the nation, there's a serious threat to the future of our democracy. That included 89% of Democrats and 80% of independents and 57% of Republicans. Another 24%, there's a serious threat to the future of our democracy, including 42% of Republicans, 20% of independents, and 11% Democrats. Wow, that's crazy. I feared for our republic until the 21st of January 2025. We're back on the right path. No thanks to state-run media, including PBS. Wow. Well, looks like oh, Jesus. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so on another note, we're going to go to this here, where it says, where it says 92% of Republicans are proud to be Americans. 32% of Democrats are proud to be Americans. By the way, Republicans were just as proud to be Americans under Obama. These are some wild numbers.
2015, look at this. 4 out of 5 Democrats were extremely or very proud to be an American. That number has plummeted to just 36% now in 2025. A low this century, has fallen by more than half since 2015 as Donald Trump has become, of course, president once again this year. Now, what is driving that decline? Well, a lot of it has to do with age. What are we talking about? Well, Generation Z Democrats, proud to be an American or not. Of course, Generation Z, born since 1997. Look at this. Only 24% of Generation Z Democrats are extremely or very proud to be an American. That is actually lower, Erica. That is lower than the percentage who say they have little or no pride to be an American at 32%. I just never thought I'd see these numbers based upon where we were a decade ago, but that's exactly where we are. Now, if Democrats have extremely less pride to be an American than they used to, what about Republicans? Well, this is where the trend line gets interesting, because with Republicans, there is no trend line. In fact, take a look here. Republicans' pride to be an American, extremely or very proud. In 2015, it was 90% back when Barack Obama was serving his second term. Now in Donald Trump's second term, it's basically the same percentage, 92%. So Republicans still are extremely or very proud to be an American. Democrats, on the other hand, have seen their numbers fall through the floor, led, of course, by the youngest generation, Generation Z. We'll see how these numbers turn going forward, but the bottom line is whether or not the folks out there are extremely or very proud to be an American.
Okay, sorry. I had a phone call. Yeah, so that's crazy, right? So that the Democrats, it seems like when they're not in power, they hate America. They only like America when they're in power. The Democrats are the party of the un-American. The root cause is that our broken education system, when you teach kids from a young age that their country is evil, that's what they'll believe. Republican households counteract this in the family, and they send their kids to more patriotic schools. At private school, where my better half recently taught, every kid could recite the Declaration of Independence and the preamble to the Constitution. They'd open school events with kids doing these recitals. That's the difference. The right is always proud of America, even if they dislike the political leaders. Democrats are spoiled brats with mental issues. Here it is right here. Has a doctor or mental health provider ever told you that you have a mental health condition? Liberals, women. Oh, look at that. Almost 50%. Men, same thing, up high. Look at this. Conservatives, very low. Moderates, liberals. Liberals are insane. Mm-hmm. Since we're talking about polls and what America thinks, and CNN says a majority of Americans want to deport all illegal aliens.
Documented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deported all immigrants who are here illegally, 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters.
Okay. Trumpinator, I'm going to agree with you on this point. I just saw this. It says, hate this country? We don't need you. That's right. If you hate America, just leave. If you love it or leave it. That was the old saying. If you remember back in the 60s and 70s and stuff, America, love it or leave it. You hate it, don't stay here and make it worse for everyone else. So, yeah, I think ALX is the Benny Johnson guy. I get some stuff. So let's see. I want to look because I think we might have hit the. Oh no, we got two super chats left to go. We'll show this real quick. It's going to cause a little problem, but if you look right here, it says go an extra hour. We need 2 more super chats to hit the goal. We have 21 minutes to go for another hour. So.
So if they say yes today-ish, how has that changed over time?
Yeah, this is where I think you get very interesting. And so we'll take a look at that ABC News question in particular, because you can really see that there's been a massive shift from when Trump was first getting into office 8 years ago, right? Deport all undocumented immigrants. You go back to 2015, I'm going to come to your side of the screen, it was 42%. Hello. Go to 2016, it was 36%. Look at where we are now. This was taken at the end of last year, 56%. This is 20 points higher than it was just before Trump got into office the first time. So feelings towards immigration in this country, feelings towards undocumented immigrants and deporting all of them have become considerably more hawkish. And I think that gives Donald Trump much more leverage to go with the American people and sort of have these hawkish, some might say harsh different rhetoric and also issue-based sort of going after immigrants who are here illegally. And so I think the American people are going to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt to do what he wants to do, at least if you believe these blunt questions, including this one.
How about immigration levels?
Yeah, okay. So this sort of goes in line with that, right? Which is, again, trying to get at the underlying feelings. Want immigration levels decreased. This includes legal and illegal immigration. Look at this. Last year, 55%. That is the highest level since the 9/11 aftermath. You go back just to 2020.
And this, again, legal and illegal. So people want less people coming into the country.
Exactly. They want less people coming into the country. Look at that. That's a 14-point rise from 2023. You go back to 2016 when Donald Trump again was running for president the first time. It was 38%. That's a 17-point rise. So
I think a lot of this stuff has to do with how they ask the question, because I think the vast majority of people, of Americans, it depends on who they ask. If you ask American citizens, is that just saying they're talking to Americans? So some of these people might be immigrants themselves, might be people that are here illegally. Who knows who they're talking to? But, you know, I don't know. I just think it would be higher than that. Most people think we're full. You know, we need to basically, you know, deport all illegals and then reduce total immigration. I think it's pretty popular.
The bottom line is more folks want people who are here illegally deported, and their overall feelings towards immigration have become considerably more hawkish since Donald Trump was first getting in office, Kate.
So I don't know why they call it hawkish. Why don't they just call it, all of them? This really shouldn't surprise anyone because it's common sense. Americans believe in enforcing all of our laws and not carving out exceptions. If you came into our country illegally or you are here illegally, you need to be sent home. Either come here the right way or don't come at all. Deport them all. They're a very big drain on our system. You know, hi, Jeffries. Why are you lying to the American people? This is an illegal immigrant admitting to me that they get free Medicaid coverage. You should be ashamed of yourself. But let's see here. Now, they all like to say that they don't get it. But I saw.
I know that FEMA was giving hundreds of millions of dollars to the Roosevelt and other migrant shelters. Are you feeling cared for in the shelter?
Medicaid, uno tiene Medicaid y por ejemplo la comida que le dan también, cosas de útiles personales, lo básico, lo de siempre, lo que siempre el hotel te da.
Did you have to pay to have your child here in America?
¿Usted tuvo que pagar para tener su hijo aquí en Estados Unidos? No, todo fue, gratis.
Did the government help you at all when you arrived, cash or shelter?
Bueno, sí, claro. ¿Le han ayudado de qué manera? Con la comida, así con de médico, esas cositas, con la ropa, sí. Bueno, eso no más puedo hablar, no.
Did you guys get any medical assistance in the shelter? Did they provide it?
A los baby, mi mamá, que todo.
Los baby, a mí sí me dieron eso, la tarjeta esa azul y amarilla de los medical, eso.
Oh, they received Medicare.
Lo único que me dieron.
Are you getting child care inside of the shelter? Do they help you take care of the child?
Sí, la comida, dan sus pañales, sus cosas, pues. Leche, todo.
Bueno, allá nos dan alimentos, servicio médico.
Did you have to pay to have your child here in America?
¿Usted tuvo que pagar para tener su hijo aquí en Estados Unidos? No, todo fue, gratis.
Pues gracias a Dios me han ayudado a conseguir seguro médico, me han ayudado para obtener mi identificación me han ayudado a obtener el asilo.
Tengo que renovar otra vez el seguro, me lo da la ciudad, sí.
No tienes que pagar nada para eso.
No, lo que pago cada vez que recojo el medicamento son como $3, $4.
Did you have to pay for any medical care when your child was born here?
No, la verdad no.
Okay, and who took care of it?
So this should enrage every American citizen who goes to the doctor and pays hundreds of dollars for a prescription or, this is why we're paying so much for everything. It's because these people are getting it all for free at your expense. It should enrage you. It should make you want to, grab torches and pitchforks and go down the streets or something, I just, it's upsetting to me. It really is. Because I spend an inordinate amount of money on medical stuff every year. A lot of money. And it's annoying. But it's just the way it is. But when I see this, and I see people who just walked across the border and they get handed everything for free, it started where they were just giving them Obama phones, and they were giving them, all these things. They had multiple phones because they don't have to pay, but they only get so many minutes. I don't know. And then they're getting free hotels, they're getting free, free food, free medical. It shouldn't be upsetting. This is why the American people said enough's enough. We elected Donald Trump overwhelmingly because this has to stop, and we want these people all to leave. You need to go back. If they have legitimate asylum claims, they should file for asylum in the first country they travel through. That's what the law actually specifies. The first safe country they get to, they're supposed to file for asylum. They're not supposed to come through all these countries and end up here. So, I don't know. I just think that, but this is the Democrat Party in 2025. Two postmenopausal women saying that the party stance is that no illegal alien should be deported unless there are additional crimes committed after entering the country illegally. They never take into account that anyone who's here illegally that is working is also breaking the law. They're using fake stolen documents. Those are crimes. So, these people are insane. But let's listen to these insane people.
The other piece of it is the movement of humans. Like, I'm not sure that we should be moving humans anywhere. I'm not sure that any part of our politics ever contemplated anything other than deporting adjudicated criminals back to their home countries.
Yes. And it turns out like all of this weird third country.
The other piece of it is the movement.
What's really weird about this is that the Democrats are fighting to keep the convicted criminals in the country. We just read about it. They're suing, all these Democrat organizations are suing to keep the people that are convicted rapists, convicted murderers, convicted pedophiles. They're fighting to keep them here. MS-13, remember the Maryland man, the MS-13 dude who's a human trafficker, what they went through for that guy? The Democrats' open border extremism isn't just reckless, it's structural theft. The refusal to deport legal aliens unless they commit additional crimes forces taxpayers to fund Medicaid collapse, emergency room abuse, and bureaucratic bloat. Every non-citizen exploiting a sanctuary city loophole steals care from veterans and working families who paid into the system. This isn't compassion. It's systemic looting. Vance nailed it. Prioritizing illegal entrants over citizens accelerates healthcare's death spiral. Taxpayer-funded programs exist for Americans, not global freeloaders. Secure the border, enforce existing laws, and end this fraud. These people are absolutely and utterly insane. Democrats, when breaking the law, is just the first step to earning citizen. Fairness is our policy. No deportations. Crime first, then maybe. This is nuts. Nuts. Why are they like this? If the only crime you committed was crossing the border illegally, you are still a criminal. That's right. Absolutely right. And I just say, I feel sorry for the Democrats because they're extremely confused today. They're extremely confused because today, there's parades all over the country today without any naked people or sex toys. Democrats across the nation were reportedly confused by thousands of local parades held yesterday as everyone in them kept their clothes on and didn't swing sex toys around. What even is this, says one local Democrat cat mom, Glenda Fitzgerald. Where's the BDSM displays? Where's the transgender furries? The naked men on bicycles? This is not what the parades are. I don't get it. I'm so annoyed. I even bothered to bring my 5-year-old nephew to this strange event. Initial reports indicate that over 60 million Americans attended the events in question, even though they featured no queer enrichment targeting at children. Several sources investigated the events around the nation reportedly featured American flags, apple pie, and innocent joy. As of now, it's still unclear what these events were celebrating and who they were for. Our sources indicate that strange, kinky parades could be fronts for dangerous fascist groups, said Congresswoman and affirmative action recipient Cori Bush. I watched one TV and I didn't see a single genital. This is white supremacy. Parents who brought children to these events are being urged to read a copy of Genderqueer to the children as soon as possible to counteract any white nationalist programming as they might have absorbed on the July 4th parade. The British police officers are keeping the streets safe around. Okay. Yeah, so hopefully the Democrats can recover from this 4th of July. Moving on to another story, briefly some tragedy in Texas. It says flooding. This was Senator Cornyn's response to hearing the flooding in Caryville resulted in multiple deaths, and rescuers were searching for 20-plus young girls who were swept away from their summer camp. Yikes, be safe out there. Multiple people are dead after catastrophic flash flooding in central Texas. The Guadalupe River crested its banks in the middle of the night and inundated small rural communities. Mm-hmm. Oh, he must have deleted the post. Senator Cornyn's yikes response to a catastrophe killing 13 Texans and leaving 23 girls missing epitomizes D.C.'s disconnect. While Lieutenant Governor Patrick mobilized 500 rescuers and 14 helicopters, Cornyn offered empty platitudes. Kerr County's disaster declaration and Mayor Herning's evacuation orders demand serious leadership, not treating mass casualties as a minor inconvenience. The Guadalupe River's 22-foot surge in 3 hours exposed failed flood preparedness. Taxpayers fund FEMA's $3 billion relief budget annually. Where is the ROI when camps lack emergency alerts? Prioritize infrastructure hardening over performative press releases. Yikes, be careful out there, said John Cornyn after learning about the death and destruction in Texas Hill Country. You are a worthless, heartless, imbecilic sack of crap. Oh. Thank you, Death Angels Channel. I still have neighbors launching fireworks and hear sirens running down the highway. I love the 4th of July. Do we make it to 10 yet? I think we are one short. I think there's one more to go. Let me double check. Yes, we have one more to go, everyone. One more $5 super chat, and the show will continue. We have 8 minutes left, and the show will continue for at least another hour. Okay, moving on to the next story. New York City Mayor, supporter of Islamic Marxist Zohran Mamdani protesters have taken to the streets of New York City chanting, "We reject Eric Adams, F the mayor," and burning the American flag on Independence Day. Oh, there it is, folks. Kevin Pastrano comes through with the number 10 to reach the goal. So we will go another hour at least with the show. So thank you to everybody. I really appreciate it. And by all means, if anyone else feels like the urge to donate anything at any point in time, I would never turn it down. So let's see what these supporters. When Cuomo lied, New Yorkers died. When Cuomo lied, New Yorkers died. We reject Eric Adams. We reject Eric Adams. We reject Eric Adams. We reject. We reject. Fuck the mayor. Fuck the mayor. Fuck the floor. Okay, I have to admit that the whole thing about Cuomo died, people lied, people died. I agree with that. I don't really have a problem with that. I don't care if they want to say that about Eric Adams and stuff. So let's just say protesters burning the American flag in New York City while screaming anti-police slogans. Classic DC failure. Taxpayer-funded cities enabling chaos instead of enforcing order. These anarchists aren't grassroots activists. They are symptoms of a broken system prioritizing performative outrage over national unity. Meanwhile, agencies waste billions on DEI. Well, okay, Kevin says, oh, he did that because I looked tired. Okay. And then Don Thickens says he was feeling patriotic. He didn't buy any fireworks this year, so lol. And Kevin, that was nice of you. Yes, it was nice of you. Real patriotism means securing the borders. funding law enforcement, and crushing this anti-American rot. But New York City's leadership would rather virtue signal than protect the flag that represents our veterans, first responders, and shared heritage. Disgraceful. I have to say, if somebody buys an American flag, they have a right to burn it. That's freedom of expression. Same way other people have the right to burn other flags they own. I don't like how they've arrested people for burning other flags, pride flags or BLM flags and stuff like that, and charge them with hate crimes when it's their flag, so they can do with it what they want. It's kind of like I think the should be an equal playing field and stuff like that. So this is ridiculous. Weak crowd. Oilers Scoopcaster is in cahoots with these losers, as far as I can tell, trying to publicize this BS movement. Zohran Mamdani is a manufactured fake candidate surrounded by the usual social engineering suspects. I did see reporting that they're looking into him because it looks like his funding might have been not on the up and up. Socialist anarchist moron Zohran Mamdani participates in his economic assault at Tesla. Yeah, same thing. Those people that got arrested for skating on rainbow crosswalks or different things. He's not interested in protecting jobs and safety of the workers in New York City. Tesla employees have had to close the past 3 weeks in a row. The crowds. So here's this clown.
You're running for mayor? Yes. Isn't this not First Amendment activity, shutting down a business 3 weeks in a row? How many New York City businesses could tolerate to close their location 3 weeks in a row? This is an economic attack on Tesla. How can you sanction this? You will never be mayor. This is not the use of the First Amendment. This is, step away from me. Don't advance towards me like that. Yeah, you did. You just came up to me in a threatening manner and you're advancing towards me. Back up. You're running for mayor? Yes. Isn't this?
Yeah, that's what they all do. They all act like this when they don't get their way. They'll send somebody up to try and confront you or stop you. Oh, here. So this is what true patriotism looks like. A B-2 escorted by F-35 fighters just flew over the White House during President Trump's big, beautiful bill signing ceremony during the national anthem. This is the most American sight you'll see all day. This country is amazing. Let's see here. So we'll play this.
At the twilight last moon, what stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we marched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof at the twilight last moon.
I will say I'm a little I'm a stickler. I'm a stickler. Here was Trump signing the bill. I think we watched this earlier, right? I'm signing the bill. Did we watch this? Well, we'll watch it again. I don't know if we watched him signing the bill. I can't remember. No auto pen being used there. This is the president actually signing the bill. Yeah. No auto pen necessary. Okay. Yeah, the gavel was a good touch. The Islamists aren't hiding their hate as they are poised to install an Islamic Marxist in Gracie Mansion. This is Zohran Mamdani constituent is making it clear. you will have another Holocaust. Wow, they actually said that? This is insane. I mean, I don't know. Oh, let's see. Hold on. Let's see. What's going on here? I was trying to turn the volume down, but it wouldn't let me. Like, it won't give me the option. Like, as soon as I go, it either full blast or nothing. This is crazy. Oh, here we go. All right. Ooh. Wow.
I want to get her on video.
Get the fuck up!
Oh well. So that's what they're doing. And this is a flashback. In March, a Palestinian wore a mock suicide vest playing with wires in Manhattan. Things are going to get worse in New York City. Yeah, here we go. See? This guy with the fake suicide vest and the wires. Like, I don't know, like maybe I don't know. If I saw a guy with looking like that, I'd think maybe that something would need to happen to keep him from Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, Western Palestinian cosplayers would likely be killed by Islamists if they set foot in Gaza. Yeah, look at them all. I mean, they would. These people would all. They'd all get to go to the rooftop bar and take the express elevator down. Diversity is our strength. Yeah. What do you know? Watching this video, it's clear that the stakes in the New York City mayoral race have never been higher. This woman's screams of "you will have another Holocaust" are not just words, they're a manifesto of the radical left's agenda, spearheaded by a candidate whose Marxist leanings and calls for a global intifada are nothing short of a declaration of war on our way of life. The rise in anti-Semitism and the normalization of such vitriol since October 7th are not coincidental, but they're directly outcomes of the policies that embolden extremism. If this is the future of New Yorkers are being sold, it's time to demand better. Leaders who protect our freedoms, not those who threaten them with their ideological fervor. The city that never sleeps is now wide awake to the threat from its own borders. Well, that's insane, too, when you really think about it. You really think about it that, just 24 years ago, roughly 24 years ago, September 11th, those buildings were attacked allegedly by terrorists, Islamic fundamentalist terrorists. And first they were going to build a mosque on the site of the things, and now they're going to elect a Muslim mayor. So I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it, really. Makes you wonder. Mm-hmm. Here we go. Another story. Here we go. Ready? So this is from NBC News. I want you guys to point out loud. NBC News is now finally reporting on this stuff about the Russiagate being, what's the word I'm looking for? Horseshit. Yes. Kash Patel and John Ratcliffe's newly classified documents show the FBI and CIA conspired against Trump. But then this guy says the documents, in fact, offer no evidence to support their assertions. Really? That's really what you're claiming? Well, this is the FBI and them trying to basically, or the NBC still trying to argue that the CIA, release of formally classified documents this week shows how Trump appointees are using their power to prop up allegations about both agencies. So it's when documents come out showing what the FBI did and that they broke the law and that all these crimes that Brennan and Comey and Clapper did, NBC News is just saying, oh, they're just trying to they're release these documents just to prop up information. You know, it says the release of the former classified FBI and CIA documents this week illustrate how President Trump's appointees at both agencies are trying to use the levers of government to prop his long-standing assertions that the intelligence communities conspired against them. They did conspire against them. The FBI released emails on Tuesday reported to show an effort by bureau's leaders in 2020 to cover up the source that there was a Chinese plot. This is true. The release is all there. The information is there. They chose to play politics. It's all true. I can't believe NBC News. You know what, NBC News? I'm not even going to read the story because you guys suck. In July 1863, New York City exploded. Poor immigrants revolted. Black citizens were hunted, and Lincoln sent troops fresh from Gettysburg to crush the chaos. The New York draft riots were America's deadliest uprising, yet few remember.
In July 1863, the Union won its greatest victory at Gettysburg. But at the exact same time, it was fighting another battle against itself. The cause? The first federal draft. The Union needed soldiers, but the new law had a catch. If you had $300, you could buy your way out. For the wealthy, it was nothing. For poor Irish immigrants, it was a death sentence. It was a rich man's war and a poor man's fight. The anger was further fueled by race. White workers, especially on the docks, feared that freed black men would come north and take their jobs. Pro-slavery newspapers stoked the flames, turning economic anxiety into racial hatred. On July 13th, the city exploded. Mobs attacked the draft office, burning it to the ground. They tore up railroad tracks, cut telegraph wires, and overwhelmed the police. The city belonged to the rioters. The mob's rage then turned on the city's black community. They burned the colored orphan asylum to the ground. They hunted black men in the streets, committing savage, brutal acts on them. It was the deadliest race riot in American history. The riots were so violent, President Lincoln had to divert thousands of troops from the front lines of the Civil War. These soldiers, who had just fought Confederates at Gettysburg, were now sent to invade and reclaim New York City from its own citizens. The draft riots exposed the secret war of race and class happening inside the Union.
I don't know if you guys remember the movie Gangs of New York. This is basically at the end of Gangs of New York. It's depicted what the what happened at the end of the draft riots. But the problem is that with Gangs of New York, I don't think that they lined up the years correctly of when the things happened. But whatever. Let's see here. So on to another story here. Another USAID gun running scam. USAID university partner Harvard Kennedy School. Harvard U's political op arm, which got tens of millions from USAID under Biden, just got busted with several of its fellows running a covert regime change in Sudan. Guns through a humanitarian front.
Scandals. So this is what actually prompted me to do this stream. Gary Kasparov was just like involved in this crazy, because we're involved in a proxy paramilitary CIA-backed rebel, like not coup, but like military war with Russia and Africa, because Russia is providing arms to these different rebel groups and installed governments, and they're battling for the resources in Africa. This is part of what's behind this conflict in places like Sudan and all across the Sahel in Africa. Chess legend busted in South Sudan weapons scheme. We're back to Bono with the USAID and Live Aid and Band Aid, the money going $100 million raised for famine relief, but actually $95 million of it goes to buy guns for CIA-backed rebels in Somalia and Eritrea. Gary Kasparov allegedly helped raise cash to buy weapons for South Sudan. Brought in a Jane Street, Wall Street money. Prosecutors say he used his Human Rights Foundation role to mask what the money was for. The same Human Rights Foundation.
This is why USAID needed to be shut down. because that's all they did. That's all USAID did was stage coups. And this exact structure of USAID and the covert ops they describe Harvard has been consistently running for the past 70 years. Harvard's not what it seems. Watch the 11 minutes. Begin to watch what you do. So it's very interesting. More on the Harvard's role in the shadow diplomacy and covert through the USAID Department, State Department partner webs. Harvard is not what it seems, part 2. These are a lot. I'm not going to play all these because they're just too long. But so this says Harvard's Kennedy School, funded by USAID, exposed again for weaponizing humanitarian fronts. Peter Ajak, a fellow there, was charged with smuggling missiles and rifles to Sudan under the guise of aid. This isn't an outlier. It's a playbook. USAID's $55 million funneled to Harvard's development programs under prior administration turned into a regime change slush fund. Taxpayers' dollars bankrolled coups while bureaucrats lecture us about fiscal responsibility. The real scandal? This keeps happening because accountability is dead in D.C. Cut the foreign aid grift and secure our borders instead. So this is what Chris Murphy was talking about when he said USAID was chasing China and Russia around the world. It's the sharp end of the State Department. How our head's not rolling yet. USAID money is spent, in the opinion, the biggest scandal of a lifetime, and how many decades of abuse has happened? Who's in power now? How's this money happening? All right, we'll jump to another story. Breaking, Trump and DeSantis bury the hatchet. At Florida's new Alligator Alcatraz immigration facility, President Trump and Governor DeSantis just declared their friendship a 10. Here's what that means for 2028 and why it could shake up the GOP again. Let's be honest, if Trump and Ted Cruz could make up in 2016, Trump and DeSantis were always inevitable. What looked like a blood feud was really a turf war. DeSantis ran against the boss and lost, but now the band is back together, as it ought to be. Trump praised Ron DeSantis on national TV and at Alligator Alcatraz opening. When asked about the relationship, Trump smiled and said, "It's a 10. Then DeSantis jumped in and said, "We've worked really well together since January. This is no accident." This reconciliation could be a game changer. Trump and many of his supporters saw DeSantis as disloyal during the 2024 primary. Now he's firmly back in the fold, pushing Trump's agenda, enforcing border security, and getting national praise for Florida's results. Honestly, I'm going to tell you, I think Ron DeSantis has been an excellent governor for Florida. I was upset that he was trying to run for president. I wanted him to finish doing his job in Florida as the governor. I was worried. But if he wants to run for president in 2028, and he can win the primary, good for him. With Trump's second term well underway, the question everyone is asking is, who's next? VP J.D. Vance leads early 2028 polling. Secretary Rubio is a contender, and now DeSantis just surged again. New poll says J.D. Vance is MAGA's heir apparent. New 2028 primary polling shows Vice President J.D. Vance crushing the field by 34 points. Trump still holds the cards. No endorsement matters more. No kingmaker has more power, and no base is more loyal than Trump's. If Trump tells conservatives to take a second look at DeSantis, they will. In fact, he just did. DeSantis still has a lot. DeSantis still has a lot that most 2028 hopefuls don't. A massive name ID, winning record as governor of the third largest state, national recognition for COVID, crime, and family policy. And now, peace with Trump. The bottom line, Trump and DeSantis just hit the reset button. And DeSantis is implementing core pieces of the America First agenda faster than any other governor. It's good for the country, great for Florida, and it just made the 2028 race a whole lot more interesting. So I think it's good. I think they should get along, So, this story, Trump says U.S. has given Ukraine too many weapons in first public comments on pause and shipments. There's been a lot of talk about the shipments being paused. I just think they need the weapons for other stuff. You know, well, this is only coming from the left. If you see it, there's no right coverage of this. Not enough unique coverage. Not enough unique coverage. So Ukraine's main issue is not weapon shortages, but rather a lack of manpower and high desertion rates, as stated in the text. U.S. adversaries like Beijing and Iran benefit from the U.S. sending weapons to Ukraine, limiting U.S. resources nearby, according to the text. China views the U.S. prioritizing military resources for the Asian theater as a sign of resolve, reflecting the text analysis. Putin is committed to his goals and will continue to push for them, regardless of Western actions, as mentioned in the call with Trump. So. Trump pauses U.S. aid to Ukraine, pressuring Zelensky on Russian talks. GOP rep urges Trump administration to get Ukraine weapon pipeline back up and running. All these people, they need to shut up. Since Mike McCall is pressuring the Trump administration to rescind its pause on sending weapons to Ukraine in its war with Russia, senior U.S. military officials have concluded that providing these critical weapons to Ukraine will not endanger U.S. readiness. How would they know? No. No, Joe doesn't stream on Fridays. It's Shabbat. He's an Orthodox Jew. He doesn't do anything after sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Okay. So. I'm looking for some more stories. I ran out of links. Oh, look at this. We'll show this real quick. So here we go. A nice post from Mr. T. It's Happy Independence Day, everybody. God bless America, the land that I love. Now let freedom ring for Juneteenth and July 4th. From the rooftops of every village and every hamlet and from every mountainside. Mr. T. God, he looks old, doesn't he? Why has he got an old TV? Was he watching old episodes of the A-Team or something? Huh. Oh, here's a nice video. It says, America, F yeah, happy 4th of July to everybody. And this explains why fireworks are dangerous and you should never drink and use fireworks, and you have to make sure you keep your fireworks away from away from everyone, because you don't want that to happen. That's bad. That's very, very bad. Mm-hmm. We looked at that story. We looked at that story. This story. We saw this one about the mayor supporters. Another Trump legal victory. Saw that. This. We saw that. All these stories we talked about. The story. Oh, this is interesting. So let's do this. So Carnival Cruises has become the favorite cruise line. Carnival has become the favorite cruise line for black vacationers. Industry-wide, blacks account for less than 7% of the market, but in Carnival, they can make up 50% or more of a particular cruise. The company's new rules seem to target this demo. Carnival's updated rules: stricter drug enforcement. Cannabis, if it's legal in your home state, it's banned on board under federal law. Violators face removal and permanent bans. Youth curfew. Guests 17 and under must leave public spaces by 1 a.m. unless accompanied by an adult or part of a supervised teen program. Fan restrictions. Handheld, non-battery fans are now prohibited, partly due to safety concerns surrounding the viral "Where Them Fans At" line dance. Bluetooth speaker ban. Guests may no longer play their own music in public areas. Carnival says that the rule is for comfort, but most see it as a racial bias in enforcement. Drink package enforcement. The 15-drink daily limit on Carnival Cheers packages has existed for years, but it's now being enforced more strictly. Reduced music genre option. Though not officially banned, hip-hop and rap appear to be quietly removed from many ship playlists. DJs also reportedly decline guest requests now. Yes. So. There was another thing that I saw that had to do with the Carnival cruises that I wanted to. I saw another Carnival cruise thing. What happened to it? I must have. I don't know. I must have lost that one somewhere. Let me look. Let me look for some more stories to pull up real quick, guys. Just give me a minute. Oh, here we go. Here's a good story. I got a good story here. Just found it. Share screen. There we go. There we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Casino company and Oklahoma Indian tribe bid on New York casino license with billions illegally skimmed from an Oklahoma Indian casino. This scandal will take down one U.S. senator, at least one congressman, and numerous officials in the Biden administration. I believe they should be taken down. I've seen nothing from Pam Bar Sessions that indicates she will do anything about other than talk about it on Fox News. I am in. I'll believe it when I see it. Oh. Global Gaming Solutions submit RFA for $3.5 billion. The Coney project. Welcome to Coney Island. Indian Gaming. Here we go. Coney Island, New York. The Coney, a project backed by Global Gaming Solutions, a business entity of the Chickasaw Nation, Door Equities, Saratoga Casino Holdings, and Legends, announced that it has officially submitted an RFA to the New York Gaming Facility Location Board to build a $3.4 billion entertainment and gaming complex that will usher in a new era of economic development for Coney Island and South Brooklyn. In its filing, the Coney outlined the economic impact that will have on Coney Island as it will drive the creation of 4,000 union construction jobs, creation of more than 4,500 permanent good-paying careers with a local hiring preference at MWBE standards that exceed local and state requirements. Total economic impact of $1.27 billion annually, with $1.13 billion of that accruing in Brooklyn. More than $300 million in annual tax revenue generated, with downstream impacts of $53 million in tax revenue and $27 million in state tax revenue. Creation of more than $620 million in total annual labor income. Creation of 20 million community trust, 200 million community trust, led by locals and dedicated support and improvement. Creation of 15 million annual fund directed directly to the community migration efforts, enhancing local police, fire, and EMS services. Where's the okay? Where is the I'm looking for where's the stuff about the Coney represents an exciting opportunity to develop a true world-class partnering life. There's nothing in here about the Congress people that he was talking. What the hell, Roger Stone? What is wrong with you? I can't believe that. I got snookered. And he says this stuff and then links to a story, and the story says none of the stuff he's claiming. What is wrong with these people? I swear. It's nuts. Okay. All right. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a quick. I'm going to pull up a couple stories from earlier in the week that I didn't get to cover. Just give me 1 second. Email sent. Actually, I think I did all these stories. Oops. I think I did all of these. Oh, man. I don't have any stories. Well, this is kind of upsetting. I don't have any stories to talk about. So let's just well, here we go. This is something we could show. Yeah, it's very awkward. I thought I had enough stories, and for some reason I didn't. So, enemy within. Remember that Rep. Oh wait, I'm not sharing it, am I? Nope, not sharing it. Enemy within. Remember that Ilhan Omar pledged her allegiance to Somalia, promising that she would protect its interests above all others from inside the U.S. government.
aan nahay dad Soomaali ah waxaan nahay dad isjecel waa laga yaabaa meelaha qaarkood inaan isku xagxagano laakiin haddii runtii ay imaato waxaan nahay dad isku tashto dad walaalo ah dad dhiig lah dad isku og inay Soomaali yihiin inay Muslim yihiin oo iyagana isku hiiliya dadka walaalahoodna u hiiliya marka daraad markii ayaan dhaxdaas markii aan maqalnay in qaar Soomaali ah ama Soomaali sheegato in Ethiopia ay la galeen ma baqaan af Soomaali wixii lagu dhaho agreement heshiis Maxamuud Nuur hadda aniga Soomaaliga badiyo ceeb ma aha
Yeah, so what the hell is happening? Yeah, so she's terrible. I'm gonna have to get this. So, oh, okay. So here we have why is it doing this? Stop it. Keep having problems today. So here we go. We have some guys at Home Depot. So that was people inside of Home Depot today are, like people protesting with Palestinian flags and shutting down a Home Depot because they thought somehow that would be a good idea. I don't understand it. I really don't. But here's a story. Dmitry Medvedev stated that several countries are ready to supply Iran with nuclear warheads. Medvedev claimed that U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear sites in Isfahan, Natanz, and Fordow failed to achieve their objectives. He warned that nuclear material enrichment and future nuclear weapon production in Iran will continue. Medvedev noted that most countries oppose the actions of Israel and the United States. So it says, Russia's former president says countries are lining up to give Iran their nukes. Analysts are calling their bluff. Russia's former president, Putin's top aide, slammed the U.S. for its strikes. Among other claims, he said countries are ready to give their nukes to Iran. Analysts are casting doubts on Russia's former president's claim that a number of countries were considering supplying nuclear warheads to Iran after the Pentagon's salvo of bunker-busting strikes there. Dmitry Medvedev, who was president, Dmitry Medvedev, who was president from 2008 to 2012, as a top aide to Russian President Vladimir Putin, didn't specify which countries he was referring to in his Telegram post on Sunday. In his post, he downplayed the damage dealt to Iran's vital nuclear sites. As news of the strikes broke on Saturday, the Pentagon was careful to say that it was assessing the destruction caused by the 14 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator bombs and Tomahawk missiles fired at the nuclear sites. Medvedev wrote that the strikes had entangled the U.S. in a new conflict. A number of countries are ready to supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads, he added. That would just be, that would be asinine. Really it would be. That would just cause other countries to then start giving nuclear weapons to other countries. You'd probably have, like, Pakistan would then sell one or give one to Saudi Arabia. Nuclear weapon analysts speaking to Business Insider said they doubted that Medvedev's statement on such transfers was credible. I mean, I guess Russia could do it if they wanted to, or North Korea could do it if they wanted to, or China, but I don't think India or Pakistan would do it, but who knows? Yeah, it's kind of nice of Russia to confirm that, right? That Iran was going after nukes, not peaceful use of nuclear power, but there is no peaceful use for 60% enriched uranium. That's the whole thing. All the peaceful uses of the enrichment is, like, I think maximum is 8 to 10%. I'm pretty sure. Nuclear warheads come as an entire system with people who need to be trained to keep them and service them safely, as well as maintenance facilities and equipment. Even tactical nukes, which are more portable and produce smaller blasts, need high-level storage. Unless you create a nuclear program or almost a nuclear program in the country, there is no way to give your nuclear weapons to them. Simply giving such a warhead to another country would break the first article of the UN's Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which Russia and China have signed. Podvig said that in Europe, where the U.S. stations nuclear weapons, the warheads are in American custody. The same can be said of Russia's nuclear weapons in Belarus. I don't see this being done technically. Politically, Medvedev could be referring to only 3 countries, said Adam Lowther, president and research at the National Institute for Deterrent Studies, an Ohio think tank. North Korea, China, and Russia are the only nuclear armed states considered adversaries or rivals to the U.S., and Lowther said all 3 know that supplying Iran with nuclear weapons, even just as a deterrent, would risk intense escalation from the U.S. and Israel. Yeah. It says, we know that Iran and North Korea and Russia have worked together to help North Korea and Iran with their delivery systems, so it wouldn't be far-fetched to be escalation. Well, maybe. And he says another comment Medvedev made on Twitter is that the media was that since the U.S. strike, Iran doesn't have to hide the fact anymore that they were developing nukes, that they were going to continue. Oh, sure. And then we could just, that's the thing, is then they could just get hit again. You know, Tehran would probably have 2 choices if it doesn't receive a warhead: use the bomb or lose it. And if Iran detonates a gifted nuke, American forensics would easily identify and trace the fissile material and bomb design to identify where the weapon originated. Then that country would be on the U.S. hits list. Medvedev has known to make bold, hawkish statements towards Ukraine and the U.S. since the onset of full-scale Russian invasion. He serves as deputy chairman, second in rank to Putin. His rhetoric has often run parallel to the Kremlin's nuclear threats, repeatedly issue warnings to the West over military aid to Ukraine. Moscow, however, has consistently not followed through with those threats, even when the U.S. escalated its level of assistance to Kiev. Lowther said he believed Medvedev's statement was a play against Ukraine, a bid to reduce the West's willingness to help Kiev. Patrick says he's awfully outspoken and several times flat out said that Russia should just nuke Ukraine. Well, that would get the job done, but I don't think Russia wants to destroy Ukraine. They want to, you know, if they want to, I think it's kind of like, you remember in that movie, that documentary Red Dawn from the 80s, where they said that, you know, they got to take them whole, you know, they got to take them whole, so that's why they didn't use nukes. I think it's kind of the same thing with Ukraine. The purpose of going there is not to just basically make it uninhabitable. It's to, you know, have the fields and have the, you know, the people and have the stuff. The White House and State Department didn't respond to requests for comments set outside regular business hours by the FBI. Well, that's an interesting story. Let's see what else. Independence Day. News about Independence Day. Stay current with all the latest breaking news about Independence Day. It says Trump says he plans to host a UFC fight at the White House. Oh. Judge briefly boxed out. We saw EPA says Trump's big bill should help its fight to take back billions. Oh, we can read this story. See the story. EPA says Trump's big bill should help in its fight to take back billions in green bank funds. Oh, I'd like to read this story. Sounds good. The Environmental Protection Agency and Citibank were sued by nonprofits over denial of access to funds from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. A new bill passed by Congress would repeal the Green Bank's establishment or rescind unobligated funds, aiding the EPA's legal fight against providing the funds to the groups. EPA argues there's no legal obligation to grant the funds to these groups, since citing Senator Capito's criticism of the program's oversight under the Biden administration. We got the article from the Washington Post, the Chicago Tribune, Spectrum Local News. I don't know. Let's go to Chicago Tribune. I've reached my article. Are you fucking people serious? All right, never mind then. I'm going to go back to this one. I've never read an article for Chicago Tribune, and I can't believe it did that. It said, not online anyway, it said that I reached my article limit. Anyway, EPA says Trump's big bill should help its fight to take back billions in green bank funds. The Environmental Protection Agency says the sprawling tax policy bill should give it a victory in its fight to freeze billions in funding for a green bank for climate-friendly projects. There's Lee Zeldin. He should have been governor of New York, but whatever. The sprawling tax and policy bill that passed Congress repeals a multi-billion-dollar green bank for financing climate-friendly products. And the Trump administration should be allowed to freeze its funding and cancel related contracts with nonprofits, federal officials said in a court filing. Climate United Fund and other nonprofits in March sued the EPA and its administrator Lee Zeldin and Citibank, which held the program's money. The lawsuit argued defendants had illegally denied the group access to billions awarded last year through the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, commonly referred to as a green bank. The program was created by the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act. Yeah, it's really weird that the Inflation Reduction Act actually increased inflation because it spent tons of money that the U.S. didn't have. But the bill that passed Congress on Thursday would repeal the part of the 2022 law that established a green bank and rescind the money that hadn't already been obligated to its recipients. The EPA said the bill should hand them a victory in their court fight that is being heard by the Federal Appeals Court in Washington. Now that Congress has rescinded funding, an earlier federal judge's decision forcing the EPA to release the money to the group should be reversed, agency said in a Thursday court filing. Climate United Fund disagrees. It acknowledges that the bill in Congress is a significant policy setback, but argues that most of the money had been dispersed and is unaffected by the bill. And if the EPA wanted to take the money back, there's a different process the agency needed to follow. Our funds have already been obligated and dispersed. Any effort to claim otherwise is simply a lie to justify illegal attempts to claw back funds intended to benefit communities across the country. So what they're talking about is like the $1 billion that Stacey Abrams got to buy people refrigerators and air conditioners. The Congressional Budget Office estimated repealing the program would save just $19 million, which is in line with its administrative expenses only, indicating the bill doesn't touch the multi-billion-dollar grant awards, according to spokesperson for the Power Forward Communities Coalition, which received a Green Bank award. Well, of course they're going to say that because they want their money. According to EPA, when the agency terminated the grant, the funds became unobligated. Grantees have desperately performed legal gymnastics to hold out tens of billions of taxpayer dollars hostage. With the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill, Congress made their intent crystal clear in repealing the program entirely and returning those billions in unobligated funds to the U.S. Treasury. The Green Bank's goal run counter to the Trump administration's policies and to address climate change and embrace of fossil fuels. Zeldin made the bank a target, characterizing the $20 billion in grants a scheme marred by conflict of interest and potential fraud. In February, Zeldin told the news he suspected Green Bank was a clear-cut case of waste and abuse. In my opinion, it's criminal. And the following month, Zeldin terminated the grants. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkin had previously said that when the federal government was asked for evidence of fraud, the agency didn't provide it and shifted its position. Chutkin decided the government can't terminate the contracts and the group should have access to some of their frozen money. The order was put on hold during the EPA appeal. The agency argues that nonprofits are making constitutional and statutory arguments that don't apply in what it sees as a simple contract fight. If the government successfully argues the case and is a contract dispute, then the EPA says it should be heard in a different court that can only award a lump sum, not force the government to keep the grants in place. The federal officials argue that no law or provision in the Constitution that compels the EPA to make these grants to these groups. In a court filing, the EPA also pointed to comments by Republican Senator Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia, chair of the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works, as supportive of the agency's position. Capito said previously that the bill intended to rescind billions in funding that had been frozen. This action reflects not only Congress's deep concern with reducing the deficit, but EPA's administration of the Green Bank under the Biden administration, the agency's selection of grant recipients, and the absence of meaningful program oversight. The agency quotes the senator as saying, well, where's the quote from the senator? I hate this, that they do this. I really do. 4 more Portland Antifa riot suspects federally charged. 4 more Portland Antifa riot suspects have been federally charged over the ongoing insurrection against the ICE facility. This brings the total federally charged so far to 17, devastating the number of Antifa needed to attack the building night after night. The cases are not being dropped immediately. Dozens of Antifa riot cases have also not been dropped by the moderate district attorney. The quote is behind a paywall. That sucks. Well, this is good. That's good news for this one. And nice, this one. Oh. Trump takes aim at Cuba's communist regime. President Trump just signaled a new national security memo reinstating hardline policies on Cuba. No more Obama-Biden sweetheart deals for the regime. A thread on what this means and why it matters for America and freedom. Trump's new Cuba policy reverses Biden's weak appeasement. It cuts off U.S. cash flowing to Cuba's military and intelligence services. It reinstates the embargo, bans U.S. tourism, and targets state-run enterprises that bankroll repression. No more helping dictators. I would like to be able to get Cuban cigars in America, though. That would be nice. I like cigars, and Cuban cigars are good. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has ordered to ID and list all Cuban military affiliated entities. U.S. companies are now banned from doing business with those entities unless it helps the Cuban people. Translation, no more laundering cash through communist front. Trump policy also promotes freedom inside Cuba, expands internet access, supports a free press, prioritizes human rights, and demands the extradition of fugitives wanted in the U.S. No more harboring American terrorists in Havana. Biden rolled back all of this in 2021, moved Cuba from the terror sponsor list, restored financial access for the regime, enabled U.S. dollars to prop up their surveillance state. I don't know what you guys are saying. You're saying the quote is behind a paywall. You use archive is and then put a dot between the archive and bypass the paywall. Stupid. YouTube filtering. I don't know how that works. I'm not ignoring your advice. I don't know. You're saying I could do something to get the quote that's behind a paywall? Biden removed Cuba from the terror list in exchange for nothing. Trump reinstated it after the regime refused to extradite 11 fugitives, including several wanted on terrorism charges. Cuba shelters terrorists, period. They always have. This isn't just about Cuba. It's about China, Iran, and Venezuela, the whole axis of tyrannical regimes. Trump is drawing a red line. No more U.S. money for enemies that crush their people and plot against ours. Yeah. I know I heard about it, but I'm not sure. I think there's usually the pages are archived, but you have to be able to find where they're archived, and then you could get around it. Communist suppression in Cuba. See no evil, Bernie Sanders. Hear no evil, AOC, and speak no evil, Biden. Crazy. Well, everyone. Let me see something. Yeah. I have. This is a video I took of some fireworks, so I thought I would play a little fireworks for everyone to see, just in case you haven't seen any. This is fireworks that I filmed for my boat in 2022. So, just here for a little. this was on the Caloosahatchee River at the bridge in between Cape Coral and Fort Myers. Getting a lot closer. Wow. So I do have another story that I pulled up because, someone mentioned it, and I remembered I had it earlier a couple of days ago, but I didn't talk about it. It was this story: the New York driving schools rigged driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. According to the DA, the green light law is a disaster. New York's DMV policies have turned into a fraud factory, enabling legal immigrants to game the system while undermining federal enforcement. The Trump administration's lawsuit against this reckless law is spot on. States cannot shield illegal activity under the guise of progress. The case with the T&E driving school proves the chaos. Fake tests, forged documents, and DMV examiners complicit in handing out licenses to people who can't even drive. It's not about fairness, it's about national security. Every fraud license is a loophole for criminals to exploit, to fund sanctuary policies, enforce immigration law, and put American safeties first. That's right. So let's see here. So let's read the story. And this will probably be the last story of the evening. New York City driving school rigged licenses for illegal immigrants, even if they couldn't drive, DA says. So let's see. It says ad is loading for this.
People of New York is that unfortunately too many people have gotten driver's licenses because of corruption, because of greed, because of theft, because of thievery. We are announcing arrests today of individuals who are taken into custody. There are multiple New York State, some are New York State motor vehicle examiners who brazenly betrayed their oaths of office by accepting cash in exchange for falsifying the results of countless road examinations, or in many cases allowing individuals to bypass the testing process altogether. The result of a long-term investigation spearheaded by my office and the New York State Inspector General with the assistance of the New York City Police Department and those who are here with us and you will hear from today. Investigators uncovered a corrupt network involving not only government employees, but also individuals that
Yeah, it's happening all over the country. It's CDLs too.
Tests on behalf of unqualified applicants and the applicants themselves who paid to illegally obtain driver's licenses. In some cases, even the prerequisite learner's permit was fraudulently obtained.
Mm-hmm. A Big Apple driving school was paid off DMV examiners to fraudulently fast-track driver's licenses for illegal immigrants, even if they had no clue how to drive. Yeah, other countries duck and felonies celebrate. It's fireworks are used all over the world. France, all over, they use fireworks to celebrate different things. They have different, basically different celebrations that use fireworks. But yeah, it's everywhere. South America, Mexico, South America, all over Europe, Asia. They all use fireworks to celebrate different things. The T&E driving school in Queens took cash from Chinese immigrants, many of whom didn't even speak English, and paid off a crew of Department of Motor Vehicle employees on Staten Island to illegally obtain driver's licenses, District Attorney Michael Mann said at a press conference. The crackdown, dubbed Operation Road Test, took down the ring in a joint investigation with state investigators and U.S. Department of Homeland Security, prosecutors said. Look at them all. Our investigation found that T&E driving school blatantly flouted the laws and procedures that are necessary to ensure the public safety on the road. George Ladonis, Assistant Special Agent in charge for Homeland Security Investigation, said in New York, said Tuesday. As alleged, T&E utilized social media and strategic advertising to target exploited members of the Chinese community and guarantee individuals driver's licenses regardless of their immigration status, language, or even their ability to operate a vehicle. Moreover, these individuals were those who did not speak or understand English, and many have been believed that they were all taking necessary and legitimate steps. T&E owner Wexian Tan, Secretary Weiwon Tan, employee Winnie Yang, and school road test driver Wang Feng Yang set up the scam by paying off DMV examiner Aji Idekula, Tian Rose Nadoila, and Edward Teddy Queen, according to the indictment. Oh, male subject. The examiners would then rubber stamp the wannabe drivers without even having them take a road test. McMahon said the scam extends beyond the 7 named indictments, with 24 suspects in custody and another indicted DMV employee not identified in the 49-page document. The numbers, as we go through the investigation, as we go through the materials that have been seized, we think we're going to find hundreds, if not thousands, of people that have been part of the scam. The numbers of the tests given by the individual examiner could be about 1,500 a year, he said. 2 out of the 3 examiners have been working for 4 or 5 years, so we think this is just the tip of the iceberg. In a statement, McMahon called the pay-to-drive scheme a corrosively corrupt operation centered on DMV workers who brazenly betrayed their oaths of office. The defendants were arraigned on a slew of fraud, tampering, and theft charges and were released. The charges are not eligible for bail under the state's controversial 2019 criminal justice reform. However, they were ordered to surrender their passports. Okay. Here's another story I saw here. I want to pull this up real quick. Let me find it. There we go. This one. At least 13 dead and nearly 24 girls at a Christian summer camp. This is the story that we briefly talked about earlier that with Senator Cornyn said, "Ooh, be careful." Over 20 unaccounted for at Texas summer camp amid floods, Lieutenant Governor. Nearly 24 girls are at a Christian summer camp are missing and potentially dead after their cabins apparently washed away by catastrophic and fatal flooding in Texas that has left at least 13 people dead, officials announced Friday. Around 20 children are unaccounted for at Camp Mystic along the Guadalupe River in Hunt, a suburb of San Antonio in Kerr County, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said at a news conference. That does not mean they've been lost. They could be in a tree. They could be out of communication. We're praying for these missing to be found alive, Patrick said. So far, at least 13 people are dead in Kerr County and several are missing. There are still several people unaccounted for right now at this point, but we're working really hard and we're going to continue. This is probably going to be a couple of day process, Kerr County Sheriff Larry L. Lethea warned. The all-girls sleepaway camp was evacuated overnight as the area was hit with up to 10 inches of rain, but some campers were left behind. What? So they evacuated, but some got left behind? Some cabins were reportedly flooded and others washed away, with the surrounding roads suffering a washout. Some of the children have been located and are stranded, but about 23 of the 75 missing campers are still unaccounted for. Up to 500 rescue workers and 18 helicopters are scouring the area for survivors, Patrick said. The state also deployed 40 helicopters, 12 drones, and 9 dive and rescue teams early Friday. I want you all to know that we'll do everything humanly possible, 24/7, looking at every tree, turning over every rock, whatever it takes. Your child is one of those truly missing and not just out of touch. To find your daughter. Camp staff sent out why does it keep doing that? Camp staff sent out an email to families informing them of the tragedy and that the camp lost power, water, and Wi-Fi. If you've not been personally contacted, then your daughter is accounted for, said the horrifying email. We are working to search and rescue currently, and the highway is washed away. We are struggling to get more help. Camp Mystic is a Christian summer camp for girls in Hunt between the ages of 7 and 17. Wow. Oh my God. Oh my God, that's brutal. Patrick urged parents not to rush to the camp because of the dangerous conditions. He promised buses would bring the rescue girls to reconnect with their families as soon as they're found. I know if it were one of my children, I'd be tempted to drive there from Houston as well, but we're asking people to stay away from the area, Patrick said. We'll find a point, we'll announce it at that time where you can be reunited with your child and hug them. Hug them hard because you know they're frightened. Children at other surrounding camps were also accounted for. Those at Camp La Junta, an all-boys camp, also at the lake when the flood started, were safe and accounted for. Patrick did admit, however, that some of the campers could be among the young bodies the rescuers found during the flood searches. An undisclosed number of bodies, both adult and child, were discovered Friday, including some inside cars and others that washed out from the river. Oh, God. State officials declined to reveal the preliminary death toll, claiming that the numbers would continue to change as missing people were recovered. At least 6 people were killed, officials told the Austin American-Statesman. Governor Greg Abbott described the situation as a devastating flooding across the hill country and the Concho Valley. A portion of the Guadalupe River near Hunt reached its second highest level on record amid the flash flooding emergency, according to the National Weather Service. Rainfall is expected to continue, which will continue to contribute to flooding. There is an ongoing threat of possible flash flooding from San Antonio to Waco for the next 24 to 48 hours, in addition to continued risks in the west and central Texas. I urge Texas and the impacted areas to heed the guidance of their local officials. An evacuation order was issued for Kerr County, with residents ordered to move to higher ground. All Kerr County residents who live near the Guadalupe River have been asked to evacuate their homes or move to higher ground. The state deployed about 40 helicopters, 12 drones, and 9 dive and rescue teams, as well as 500 people on the ground. Texas National Guard was activated Thursday night, orchestrating helicopter searches through Hunt and Kerrville. The U.S. Coast Guard and Federal Emergency Management Agency are also assisting. President Trump has been notified, and the White House has been touched several times to relay that whatever we need, we will have, Patrick said, according to CNN. Oh. Yeah. What's this? Como Camp says Mandami claiming to be black. Como Camp says Mandami claiming to be black on college application is just tip of the iceberg and could hide fraud. What do you know? Former Governor Andrew Cuomo's camp said Friday that the fact that mayoral foe Zoran Mandami claimed to be black on a college application could just be the tip of the iceberg in terms of potential fraud. Socialist Mandami marked both black or African American and Asian on his 2019 application to Columbia University, which had affirmative action policies at the time. Both Mandami's parents are of Asian Indian descent, and the politician even admitted to the New York Times that when it outed him that he does not consider himself black or African American. This should come as no surprise to Mandami, whose proposals, his funding, and his background received absolutely no scrutiny from the press. Former spokesman Rich as a party seized of the leading mayoral candidate's old college application. Yeah. Socialist Democratic mayoral candidate. Well, let's just call him communist candidate Zoran Mandami stirred up controversy marking himself as black. The issue must be fully investigated because if true, it could be fraud and just the tip of the iceberg. Mandami, 33, was born in Uganda, told the Times he didn't make the selections on the applications to try to get a competitive advantage, but rather because he didn't feel that what was available fully captured his racial makeup. Oh, so Zohar Hamadami said identifying himself as African American would be misleading on campaign trail just months before the bombshell. This says Eric Adams' poll shows Mayor trailing Cuomo by double digits, but Mandami still beats them both. Oh, Rainey Collins. Well, you're welcome. I, decided to stay a little while longer. So pull up some stories. Let's see this one. What's this say? I'd like to see this story. Pro Eric Adams poll says Cuomo trained by double digits, but Mandami still beats them both. A stunning poll and a drumming support for Adams' re-election. Says the Queens at shocking trouts Cuomo the primary last month, leads ex-governor Adams by double digits with 41% of the vote in theoretical general election, while Cuomo garners 26 and his honor takes home 16. Cuomo and Adams are listed as running as independents in November. If both Cuomo and Adams are in the race anywhere near the election, Mandami can go pick out drapes for Gracie Mansion, says Steve Graves of Gotham Politics. It's surprising. The poll surveyed a little more than 1,000 voters, just days after Adams formally kicked off his re-election bid on an independent line and the stunning Democratic primary win for Mandami. The primary upset has left moderate Dems and those in the business community scrambling to figure out which of the reigning moderate candidates they can line up behind and challenge the upstart socialist. Adams and Cuomo have both been making their cases to prominent New Yorkers that they are the only ones who could take down Mandami. On Thursday morning, Adams nabbed the support of billionaire Bill Ackman, who urged Cuomo to drop out. The day earlier, Reverend Al Sharpton made a similar call, telling Cuomo to throw in the towel. But even with the new poll being heavily skewed when surveying voters to try to boost Adams' numbers and tarnish others, the mayor failed to garner much support, much to the chagrin of his campaign. One of the questions read, some people believe Andrew Cuomo's re-entry into politics shows strength and experience, while others believe it reflects old political habits and unresolved controversies. Which comes closest to your view? Another asked the potential voter if they were concerned about Mandami's for various reasons, such as too extreme policies. Graves pointed to Mandami's largely benefits from the structured moderate vote split among Adams and Cuomo, as well as the GOP nominee Curtis Lewa, who came in just under 10% of support. How is it possible that there's only 10% of New York City is Republican? How is that possible? I mean, that's approaching DC levels. According to this poll, 51% of voters said they would never vote for Adams, while Cuomo came in 12% lower at 39%. Around 46% of voters fell into the never Mandami category. I can't play his rap songs. He's striking channels. He's playing them. Adams and Cuomo head into the general election with years of baggage, but this mayor's first term being dominated by federal raids of his top officials and a historic indictment. The ex-governor resigned in 2021 in disgrace. Both have vigorously denied any wrongdoing, but the scandals have repeatedly shown in the polls to drag their numbers down. Adams' campaign spokesman Todd Shapiro slammed the survey. The Adams campaign will be bringing in over 1 million new voters to the polls, many of whom will be voting for the first time. These are real New Yorkers, working family, first-time voters, and everyday residents from across the 5 boroughs who are energized by the results they've seen under Mayor Adams. Let's be clear, Andrew Cuomo spent $30 million in a primary and was soundly rejected by the voters. If all that money and national attention translates to just a 2-point lead in one early poll, that's not a show of strength, it's a ceiling. Meanwhile, Mayor Adams is just beginning the campaign, and the more voters hear his message and see the facts, the gap will close and momentum will shift decisively. All right, well, we've been going for 3 hours and 20 minutes, so I think I'm going to call it quits. I appreciate everybody. I want to thank everybody who stopped by. I want to ask you to please remember to hit the like button, give it the thumbs up, give me a like, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. You can check us out on X at Jim Satala on X, or on Rumble at Jim Tells You also, or on YouTube, Jim Tells You, Locals, Satala Consulting Services, LLC. I want to thank you all. I will see you again Saturday night. I will be doing a show again at 10 o'clock. I will have more I will have more stuff lined up for Saturday night. I'll make sure I have plenty of links. I'll have at least 50 tabs ready to go for Saturday night. So it'll be a better show. So thank you for coming by and letting Jim tell you the news.